I turn the fan on.
Go ahead, Greg.
You ready, Karen?
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Shaftsbury Select Board meeting for Monday, June the 3rd. This is a regular meeting this evening. First item on the agenda tonight, does any member of the board have a conflict of interest with any matter that's on the schedule to be discussed this evening?
No.
Okay. With the approval of the board, I would like to just skip over the minutes. Margie's going to collect and bring a copy of those up. Ken indicated he did not have those in his possession, so we'll give him a chance to look at those, and we'll take that up a little later in the meeting if everybody's okay with that.
Fine.
Okay. Okay, next, warrants tonight. This is the check warrant P47R. This is the retirement warrant in the amount of $114.17.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant P47R signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next, we have payroll warrant 47. I'm reading this correctly. In the amount of $8,479.23.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant 47 signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Next, we have payroll warrant 48 in the amount of $9,869.72.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Nope.
No.
Oh, geez, I guess I better call for the vote. I'm losing my mind already. All right. There being none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant 48 signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Is this one, Karen, going that way?
Yep.
Last and certainly not least, check warrant number 32 in the amount of, oh, this is a small night tonight. This is good. In the amount of $15,466.58.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, the items of significance, those being over $1,000. Clean Harbors Environmental Services, $6,084.21. You like that?
I like that one, yeah. It's much lower than,
Three to William E. Daley, totaling just over $1,300. Two to Green Mountain Power, totaling just over $1,200. And the two to Sycamore Landscaping, totaling $2,150. Those are the May mowing fees. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of approval of pay or check warrant number 32 signify by saying aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Now we'll, with the board's approval, we'll return to the approval of minutes. First up, we have minutes from May 6, 2013.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Minor update. 6 public comments. Mitch Race announced an excursion to visit historic Deerfield. That's just, instead it just says historic. And
Mitch, I can't hear you. Where are you talking about
on
again?
the 6th one, on number 6, visit historic Deerfield,
6,
June 22nd.
I didn't know.
May 6.
public comments, no, announcements.
Public comment.
Right under announcements.
Yeah. Public comments.
The trip date is
June 22nd, that's right. Just, it didn't say Deerfield on there, that's all.
to historic Deerfield.
Yep.
Does your copy didn't have Deerfield on it?
The minutes say
Okay, the May
Historical
6th.
Society's trip to...
Okay, okay.
Oh, I'm reading from the 20th.
Yeah, I'm reading the
Right.
Sorry.
20th has it.
Okay,
It's just the 6th that does not, okay.
I'm sorry. I have to go find a pen.
Here,
Come to mine.
take
Oh,
that.
okay.
I got a bunch of them.
Okay.
Ken, have you had a chance to get through those? Sorry, I'm rushing you along here.
Oh, it's all right. We're on the 6th, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that
I'm
one.
good with that. All right, see if there's no further discussions. All those in favor of approval of the minutes of May 6th signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Now, for the minutes of May 20th, 2013.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any
Craig, I
discussions?
have a question out here. Where we had the discussion about the government loader,
Okay.
and they was gonna have a report on any repairs or purchase
the cost.
expenses on that.
You know, I apologize, Ken. I have not been able to put that together.
Okay. Can we have it for the next meeting?
Oh, you betcha. Yes, I apologize.
Okay.
We can ask, I mean, I think I can, yeah. I can send it to you way in advance of that. All right, let's take a look.
I just had one little edit if Ken is, were you set, Ken, or not?
Ken, any other questions?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Just on page 2, under Treasurer's Reports, Section 8, second paragraph, just remove one of those budgets. It's a little, it's just an edit.
The
It is important to
FY13 budget
note
calls,
that-
budgets calls
Yeah.
for get rid of
Yep,
budgets.
yep. Yep. And that
Mitch,
was
anything?
the only
Oh, sorry.
one that I had.
Mitch, anything?
No.
Okay, if there's no further corrections or comments, all those ready to approve the minutes of May 20th as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Announcements. Ken, do you have anything?
I don't know if this is going to announcements or not. I got a couple things if they fit here. I had a gentleman call me from Twitcher Hill yesterday, where they had done some ditching work up there, and he was not very happy with it, and he mentioned that several of his neighbors weren't either. And he thought he was gonna be down here tonight, but I don't see him, so.
I did get a call from the same gentleman today, and he was very unhappy. What happened was, as of the result of our first storm prior to this weekend, we started seeing undercutting of pavement on the brand-new pavement on Twitchell Hill. So the crew went up and ditched the one good day we had Thursday. They were ditching on Twitchell Hill Thursday or Wednesday of this past week. And subsequent to that, because of the deluge we had of almost 2 inches in, what was an hour and a half, we did see water did go where it was supposed to go, but it also went places it wasn't supposed to go. So we had driveways that were flooded, and we had a lot of gravel or broken bits of pavement brought down onto driveway spans as the water cascaded downhill. It would eventually flow back into the ditch, but when there were no driveway culverts, driveways were just bypassed or flooded and down. So I've had more than one resident, we can talk this over with Terry later. I don't think there's any easy answer as to what needs to happen up there. There are no driveway culverts, or at least very few. And we may not have, in some places, the width left without people losing a significant amount of lawn to actually establish a ditch deep enough for culverts. But Ken, you've had a lot more experience. So the call of the gentleman that we've been talking about was up opposite the field, way up above. That's where he lives. And I didn't go back up there this afternoon to see that location. So I think it at least warrants a visit. You've already been there.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go with you, or with you and Terry, or whatever, or Craig, or...
Well, that ditch is, you can still see it in places where it was paved before.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you're gonna hold that ditch anyway, is to pave it. Because you've got a real high bank over here, and your pavement's out here, and with the volume of water you get down off of that road, if you don't pave that ditch, you're had.
Okay, well, let's, if it's okay, let's talk briefly with that, but Terry will be joining us later tonight. Let's talk briefly with him, and then we'll set a plan of attack to take a look, and like I said, try to develop a plan to solve the long-term problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I got one other thing, and I don't know if that would go with this other or what, but, last week, there was an excavator and a truck in the cemetery, a hired equipment in the cemetery, down by my house. And there was a ridge, where you drive in there, it's a narrow road, and all your traffic goes right in one spot, so you develop a grass ridge in the center. And that was all cleaned out of there. And I'm just wondering why we have hired equipment doing that when we've got 2 excavators and 7 trucks and 6 men.
That have been the cemetery committee that,
That was our superintendent.
cemetery superintendent must have authorized that.
Why don't they use town equipment?
Don't know the answer to that question, why they contracted.
Find out, we have to find
Okay.
out, Ken.
All right.
Maybe someone donated their time. I mean, we don't even know that.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
Could have
yeah.
been,
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
2 things. Again, the historic Deerfield trip is June 22nd. It's a joint adventure with the Bennington Museum and the Shaftsbury Historical Society. We leave at 8:30 from the Bennington Station, and we return by 4:30 to the same location, and it's a $30 round trip with 3.5 hours of tours included, entrance and 3.5 hours of tours. We have a limited number of seats, so if anyone's interested, I would recommend getting your tickets sooner rather than later. When they sell out, we will not be getting another bus. And it's June 22nd.
Mitch, could you give a phone number so that I can get that up onto the website to call?
Okay, the tickets are available for sale at the Chocolate Barn and at the Bennington Museum. And you can call me if you want, 802-375-2776.
375,
2776.
thank you.
And second thing is, on behalf of myself and the Shaftsbury Historical Society, we'd like to express our sincere condolences to Bill and Faye Hardy on the loss of their child.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
Karen?
You know, along the same lines, in terms of sad news hitting Shaftsbury, actually, pretty much over the last month, we've lost Faye and Bill's son this weekend, and Bill is, of course, on our cemetery committee. And we also lost Marty Harrington, who had been a state rep from Shaftsbury for several terms, and we all know and love the old, some of us still call it the Harrington store down here on the corner. He and Millie ran that store for a long time. And we also lost Merritt Hewitt, who is just contributed so much to this whole area, the whole county, really. He was a Shaftsbury rep and a Bennington County senator, and he actually was the one that introduced the legislation that made Lake Shaftsbury a state park. So, I would ask that Craig maybe ask for a moment of
Yeah.
silence for all of those, and
Thank
it's
you.
very sad.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I would like to ask for a moment of silence for those that have recently departed. Thank you. Karen, anything else as far as announcements this evening?
No.
Okay. I've only got one thing. Just want to welcome tonight Sean Sterling, who is taken on the role, at least for a bit,
Great to have you.
as the secretary to the board, taking the minutes and trying to keep up with us. We appreciate that, Sean. Glad. Tell us to slow down or ask questions if you need it. Okay. But again, Sean, as I understand, is a student at Castleton, and is going to be working with us for a bit. See how things go. If it works for him and for us, we'll be good. Thanks, Sean, for being with us. Welcome. Does any member of the audience have any announcements or comments regarding anything that's not on the agenda? Barry.
Apropos of this drainage issue, I live on Town Line Road, and the first one was Tuesday a week ago, last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, big rain. Much of Town Line Road
Ended up where, oh, we can't hear you.
ended up on our property. Not much of it, but more of it than I wanted. And a lot of it had to do with some previous work that had been done up above our property on what was, I'm not sure, I think it belongs to Dan Perna, but I think Annabelle Perna had started to grade that some years ago for a corral, or for an arena for horses, and they never put any dams up to prevent stuff from washing down. And there's a berm up at the top of our property intended to deflect water to go off into the woods rather than on our lawn. There's way too much lawn anyway. And that kept filling in. And that stuff came down and nothing, no recourse I had to anybody at that point. But this time it was much, much worse. And to my surprise, the next day, I went up there and there was a guy up there grading. When I came down here to talk to Terry. And he said they knew about it, and I was sending some people up to do something. And he came up and regraded the road, and they dug out that swale. And then we had the next rain, and the swale was almost half full of gravel after that. So there's got to be another solution. I hope there is. The second rain yesterday, we have a rain gauge, we got half an inch, 0.75 inches. And I can see water is, again, working its way. We have a culvert under our driveway, not big enough. But I just wanted to make the issue that sets another area. I don't know if anybody else has made mention of it, but it'd be nice if somebody out there, he also said, and I was surprised, the guy out there said, we'll come and get that gravel off your lawn. I thought I was responsible.
This was the neighbor that said that to you?
No, on the road crew.
Really? Because I've got it all over my lawn from the rain. I was going to go out with my power broom.
Well, maybe they wanted the gravel back.
Maybe that they, yeah.
My neighbor down, Scott McEnany, called me the other day and he said, You got all that gravel up there, I need gravel in my driveway, can I come and get some? I said, you can have all you want. So he took about a third of it, but there's still plenty left. So I don't know if that guy was talking to his hat or just wanted to make me feel good or what his issue was. But I was surprised to hear anybody was going to come and rescue me. Is that, can you answer that question? Is it
Well, Terry's going to be here later tonight.
supporting?
I don't know. It sounds to me, from what you've said, that we've got two issues, potential drainage issue from the road, but also you've got property shedding, somebody else's property shedding.
That was years ago.
Oh, that's what, you made it sound like that's what was happening currently.
All the gravel that came down now came off town, came out of town, and there were ditches down both sides.
Oh, okay.
I have pictures on my cell phone.
Okay, all right. Well,
So are you saying that the ditching is not adequate along Town Line Road?
It certainly wasn't for that.
Okay, okay.
and it hasn't been I think it's the sheer volume and the pace, the short time span.
Right.
I think some of the erosion in certain spots was worse than Irene.
Yeah, it was for us.
And
it was-
so it was
it
the
wasn't-
intensity.
Yeah.
And if this continues to happen, as I know it, we are not alone. Even the governor was saying on the radio this weekend, now that there's the thought is that we've undersized our culverts for these spot storm events and that it's becoming an issue statewide. We are going to have to revisit how we handle our ditches. Because that's what I'm seeing. Daniels Road, they had a brand-new culvert installed last week. That failed.
Really?
It's still there. It wasn't washed out, but so much water shed down Mountain View, it plugged the culvert. There's sand and silt and pavement, whatever. This got muck, 18 inches or whatever. The ditches are filled in. So,
Well, that's a big issue statewide. I've been going to other meetings of other organizations, both here and in Massachusetts, that have to do with river problems over the last couple of years, and that's a problem everywhere. And Terry's aware of it. We talked about culverts when I was came down to the river. He knows about it, but there isn't money for it, and we don't have the structure to do it in most places. The state, under state laws, they're responsible for that.
we have some ideas. I know what to do, but it is budgetary.
I would also say that a couple of years ago on Town Road, they did ditching before Terry got it. And Ron was still there. And they did some ditching to divert the water off the crown off into the woods on the Bennington side, because it's only woods there. And it worked pretty well. But we got like a 6 or an 8-inch culvert down there, which is totally
I don't even think that they even would allow you to put a 6 or 8 inch, culvert in anymore. There's not that even beyond the fact that it doesn't make any sense, but
Well, what's the town policy now for 18 inches, isn't it?
pretty much it's 18
State
inch.
standard.
State standard.
Decking road? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a minimum, so 6 or 8 inch does not close.
Well, for driveway, it had been 15.
15.
Roadway was at 18. But,
Yeah, but that's not set in stone, right? If you've got a,
oh no, you can always exceed that.
Yeah, depending on, I know there's different things related to flow, they actually have to be bigger than that depending on what the flow is, so the hydrologists know more about that than I, but
But our crew does not sit there, Ken, and try to evaluate the sheet flow off of this particular little drainage area by a driveway.
no,
before the
but I didn't know what the town specifications were for, driveways and adding on.
I believe that the new excess ordinance, it addresses that. I know that
Well, they did when I worked for the town, but I didn't know what it was first.
Yeah, the town, or the driveway, or the access ordinance, which was recently put in play, it has that in it, and it is either 15 or 18 minimum.
18.
I believe it's 18 minimum, so, but that's for anything that's been done in the last couple months. since that was enacted or reenacted, if you will.
Yeah.
So going forward, that will be the answer to the question. Barry, we'll address it with Terry and see what solution we can come up with. Thank you. Any other questions or any other comments on anything not warned on the agenda this evening? If not, let's move along. We have our special guest tonight, Franco Rossi from CAI Technologies, is going to talk about parcel mapping with us tonight.
All right.
Franco, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Want to join us?
Larry, are you going to give any prelude for this presentation at all as the board?
Waiting for you to do that.
Gee, thanks.
Well, just to remind you, I think I said in the emails that I sent out with the board packet that we left this topic with a couple of points that had been raised. One was the role of the state in providing parcel mapping services, which I followed up on, and the second was from several people in the audience and probably even the board, there were concerns over privacy and access to dwelling-related configuration and square footages and entrances, how you could limit your exposure on or through software and user interfaces, such as what Franco is going to talk about with us. And because we couldn't answer some of the technical questions that popped up at our last meeting, I asked Franco to be here. So we haven't progressed a whole lot further, except that we revisited again the issue of use of appraisal funds to apply towards startup costs for this venture, and that annual updates, we have a budget for that in the lister's budget. To the tune of this coming year would be $3,000, starting July 1. And the balance in any annual expenditure would come from the reappraisal fund. The only other thing I'd add is that Franco was one of 3 possible vendors that the listers met with. I mean, they met with 3, and he was the selected vendor of choice. But I think it's a great idea to just introduce the services you are going to do, bring us up to speed again. And I don't see the particular gentleman or two that in the audience that had asked the same questions, but
No, that was Mr. Gardner. Mitch, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question on, well, I was going to wait for the demo to go through, and then I was going to ask it again, but basically, if you're housing, currently if someone comes in and wants to look at a parcel or mapping, they come through the listers. The listers say, they know them most of the time, or they have reason to believe there's something going on, at least they can identify them, and they give them the information. Is there any way, once this is up and running with all the overlays and everything we're talking about, is there any way to log the ID or the email address of a person that goes in and looks at a site, say like an 1,000 occurrence table of some sort, to say something, someone's been looking at 3 houses in town and all of a sudden 2 of them get broken into or something? And is there any way to go back through a log, a journaling of some sort as far as access or anything like that? You would just limit the access to that information. I mean, I see you have passwords required up here, but that...
I can get into what that's all about, but the short answer to your question is no, not with our application as it's currently developed. There is the possibility that we could do some customization maybe that would meet whatever your needs. I can't make any promises with that right now until we flesh that out, but that would be over and above the standard cost of what this product is. So the technology's there, but we would have to build that type of
Is
architecture.
this a server-based application, or are you going to use cloud?
Everything's hosted on the cloud.
Okay, then I think if you're hosting on the cloud, wouldn't it be easy enough to set up a right at for access of whoever, I mean, if it's not a matter of space or,
No, it has absolutely nothing to do with...
Yeah, maintain a table.
Yeah,
It's just
no, it
made out
has
of
nothing to
stuff.
do with that. It's just a matter of what functionality we want to build into the application as part of our standard package to all our clients, or what customized
Okay.
we may want to do, or you may want to do, and whether we want to go that far. Because one of the challenges, of course, is whenever a client talks about customizing their solution is now, one of the reasons we're able to do this at the price point we're able to do it at, using Esri technology at this price point, is that we aren't trying to maintain a bunch of different...
Separate, it's all standard.
Yeah, they're all standard. Now, there's staff sites that we've developed for individual communities that are more customized over and above the public site. But as far as having a public site available that tracks those types of things, we'd have to look into it. It's not built into what we're talking,
Yeah.
what
I mean, it would be
talking
good
about.
for analytics too, even just to figure out how many people are really looking at these sites in town.
Yeah, we have all the analytics to see how often the sites are visited, but as far as tracking
Logging.
specifically where it's coming from, we aren't set up to do that now.
Yeah, it would just be more or less writing a line out, not tracking hey, it'd be up to if something were to happen, to go back and backtrack through that. But okay, thank you.
As far as, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. As far as this application and what I'm here to talk about tonight, I want to make sure I'm clear. There's kind of two issues we're addressing here. One is your map data and your maintenance services, and the other is these web services that allow you to utilize the data and to make it available to the public should you choose to do so. Do we need to back up and talk about data first, or do we want to just dive right into the application?
Oh, the shape of the data, why we have a startup,
Yeah,
an additional layer of startup costs?
Questions regarding what those costs are.
Yeah, maybe that, if you could briefly touch on that. We have been working, as a lot of people know, with a vendor, but was very reluctant to relinquish the data to us in the GIS format that met standards that would have been useful to Franco, and was going to basically charge us over $7,000 to do the work to get it to that shape. So I actually asked Franco himself to review the data that was available from our incumbent vendor, and we had Franco did an evaluation, and so
I guess maybe that'd be a good spot to start.
from that, just
Okay.
from there.
All right, so recognizing the challenges with acquiring the data, you have the option to purchase the data that exists now, and you sent me the email and the data to determine what the real costs of doing that were. And I'm not going to speak to
Right.
that whole issue. I'm just going to say that in order to get all the data that you need to be able to generate your tax maps that you're accustomed to having, as well as set up the website and all the stuff, you looked like you were facing $7,380 to acquire those data that exist. I had already, before I knew that, I had already given a price to Maggie, or the listers thing, because we didn't know at the time whether you could get the data and what you had to go through to get those data. And I had already given a price to recreate the data from scratch of $7,200. So for slightly less than what it would have cost you to acquire it, we can just recreate it.
It'd be more current. Or
Yes.
would they convert it current, or just what they
It
have?
would be the data, as current as your maps are now, okay? And so there's that conversion, and a little bit of the confusion we were talking about earlier, Maggie, about that $2,500 setup.
Yes.
Well, if we convert the data from scratch as opposed to acquiring the data,
Right.
it's a lot more cost-effective for us to build this site. That's why I was able to discount the web setup
Okay.
by $1,000, because we don't have to take someone else's data, restructure, reformat, and manipulate it. We'll build it the way it needs to be built for the web
Okay.
application. Okay, so if that's the direction the board decides to go, is to have us recreate the data from scratch, you're actually going to, aside from being slightly less than having to purchase the data, you're also going to save another $1,000 in your web setup fee,
Okay.
whatever that's your decision.
$1,000 is worth a lot.
So that's what we're faced with, is trying to recreate the data, set up the data. Now, one of the questions that came up, and I want to make sure everything's addressed, is that parcel data already exists for the town for free from the Regional Planning Commission. Unfortunately, it's so old that the costs of maintaining it and updating it exceed the cost of just building it from scratch. Okay, so, and the reason I say that is, one of the challenges is, you can take, I can't remember exactly how old the data are, but maybe they're 10 years old.
Mid-1990s.
Oh, yeah, so that was back when it was originally done. So they're 20 years old. You could go back and get all your plans that were recorded and recompile and get all, and that'll go a long ways. The problem is, there's changes made throughout the maps over the years that weren't necessarily from a recorded plan. And there's no way of reconstructing that. So I don't think that's a wise way to go, regardless of cost, because you're going to lose changes inevitably that have been done that you just can't reconstruct. Okay, so we're starting with your most current tax maps, developing the data, the GIS data from that, and then embark on an annual maintenance program to annually update, which I guess you were doing already.
Right.
But one of the things that happens, once we redevelop the data, if memory serves, I think the maintenance costs annual maintenance fees are lower than what you've been paying historically. And that's, whether that's due to data or volume of data to be recorded, or due to the data structure being more efficiently maintained. I can just tell you that apparently the quote I gave for annual updates was lower than what you had been paying previously. So what I had proposed in an email, and I don't know how much got distributed from a data perspective, was redevelop the data, contract to redevelop the data, 3-year maintenance, build your website, serve the web for 3 years. And if we do that, a 3-year agreement to do that, I would be willing to take the total cost of the project and split it up over 3 years, so that you don't get hammered in the first budget year, if that helps you. If it doesn't, we'll do it based on the work done. I got no problem either way, whatever works best for you. But if we're going to split it over 3 years, I'll need a 3-year agreement going forward.
That makes sense.
So that's your data. We would then take your assessment data. I don't remember what's used here. Are you using
We're using a state program.
Yeah, okay, so we would link your tabular data, your assessment data to the maps, thereby creating the GIS, and allow you the utility of GIS and the power of GIS and the functionality of querying data and analyzing data.
And does that, just interject, so any updates that we make to the data here would at some point reasonably often periodically would update the information that we have? Yeah,
that's a good point. One thing is, most of our clients, we maintain the maps and we update them once a year the way they always have. In Vermont, typically it's current to April 1st of each year.
Okay.
However, the attribute data, owners' names, deed reference, whatever, all the data that comes out of your state program that's linked, you'd have our service includes what we call a data processor that will allow you locally to update that whenever you want. So you'll always have current data. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I do that in the towns where we have the system probably monthly. If there's not much going on, it may be every 2 months, but it's an easy update.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. It obviously wouldn't be daily or anything like that, or wouldn't need to be.
No, but you're going to have your new names and addresses and so forth, and that helps anybody who's doing research from outside a real estate broker and so forth, that will have fairly current data.
Or if you're doing an abutters list.
Yeah,
in the middle of the
and that's
year.
the
That's
key.
exactly right.
Yeah.
That's a
The
real
abutter
key.
list is key.
And that's an important aspect of this application that we provide to all of our clients, is that data processor. You don't have to do it very often, but you can do it whenever you need it. So if there's a planning board meeting and you want, because some of our clients have this up during their planning board meeting so they can look at stuff, and someone may say, hey, Jim, can you run that data processor? We want to make sure we have the most current data available. You can run it whenever you want. It's ad hoc. It takes a couple minutes.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is that like an administrator role or Do you have a particular person that would be doing that in the listers?
Would be
Jim.
Jim Boyle.
As part of the,
Most likely.
as part of the setup of the Query Manager Online site, we would work with you however you decided to set that up and establish that. It doesn't have to be an individual, but it has to be, the data processor has to be installed on a computer that sees and can maintain the NIMRIC data. You can go grab it and
Yeah.
Okay.
stick it up there. Okay?
Yeah, that's that question. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I already have been. So what you're looking at here is a list of our Career Manager Online clients right now. We're at, I don't know, somewhere around 120 total in Vermont. You can see these are all there. Password required means the site's up and the client is reviewing it before they open it to the public. We don't have any that don't intend to open it to the public, okay? So you can't visit any of those. Coming soon or coming in 2014, those are ones we have contracted, they're not built yet, okay? All of the rest are publicly available sites. They also may include staff sites that are password protected, but they have a public-facing site. Okay? If there's anything there, Vermont or not, that you'd like to jump to, I can just start showing a town that you might be interested in.
Weston.
Weston?
Let's do it.
Sure,
Afraid
that's
you're going to pick
close.
that one. Unfortunately, the Weston, the aerial photos aren't that great and they don't line up. But what you're going to find out is all of the sites look the same. You wouldn't tell if you were in Vermont, and they're all built on the same platform, they all look the same. Some have this splash screen that comes up with, and it can include a disclaimer, or it can just include information of when it was updated, or whatever you want. All this language here is customizable. A lot of the sites don't have a splash screen at all, it just goes to the site.
So you could put last updated June 3rd.
Yep.
2013.
Yep. So here's the site. You're looking at, I'm gonna, one more map real estate here. Across the top, you see is where you interact with the maps and you navigate. You can turn, I'm sorry, I'm using this mouse pad, so I'm gonna have a hard time, but you can turn on USGS, you can turn on aerial photographs. These are all data that are free. What we're looking at when we're zoomed way out here is being served from the ESRI servers, okay? You're
Now-
not looking at the local orthophotography available from the state.
Just explain again who ESRI is that you have a partnership with.
Yeah, ESRI.
Very briefly.
ESRI, Environmental Systems Research Institute, is really the largest, most ubiquitous GIS application software out there in the world. It's the most advanced, and quite frankly, until we developed this Career Manager Online application, working with them, it was in large part for small and medium-sized towns, which are the bulk of our clients, the cost was not attainable. So they were having a hard time getting into our market, and they wanted to, so we worked out a business model that worked, so that what we felt was, if it was important enough to any community, they could afford the $1,800 a year to serve this, if it was important enough to them. So now, the most powerful and ubiquitous GIS software available is available to virtually any community at a cost-effective price, okay? So, as I was saying, we're looking at wide-scale data. We're not looking at local data until we zoom in tighter, and the reason we do it that way is really regeneration time. You don't want any high-resolution photography trying to regenerate all year. It just takes too long and of no value, okay? You have tools to identify parcels, print maps, and then other graphic tools that I can show you when we have time. Here's where you interact with your attribute data. So you want to look for a parcel. Anybody you want me to look for?
Lennox?
Lennox? I hit Lennox, find owner. Why'd you do that to me?
I don't know. That's not good.
No results. Am I spelling it right?
L-E-N, it should be.
Two ends maybe?
You know what I'm gonna do? Less is more. So now anything with LEN comes up, but of course I don't know where. Lennox, there's two N's in it, that's why.
That's right.
Jeff or Linda? Or do you care?
Linda.
Oh, I'm sorry, before I did that, you see that all the push pins come up on the map.
Yeah.
That's where everything, there was an
Possible
LEN.
locations. Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, and there's,
So now we're looking at this parcel, and you see that we're zoomed way out because it's a large parcel, so you're not seeing a lot of the text that you could see from the tax map, dimensions and things like that. And there's zoom thresholds, so when you zoom in tighter, you see them. Problem is, sometimes you want to see them. Do we have that layer in there, do you know?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. So we have map layers here, so if you want to see all the tax map text,
You gotta go in tighter for it.
well, we should have a text at all, tax map text at all scales. So if I turn that on, now everything comes on. Okay,
You
so
see all
now I
your
can have it with all the
dimensions and-
parcels,
yeah.
with all the information.
Yeah.
Okay? I found the parcel, pretty straightforward. Now, you want to print the map? You see it automatically fills in Weston. You can change the scale, or actually, you can title it whatever you want. You can change the scale. Let's see, 500 feet makes more sense. You don't want it 448, although it doesn't matter. 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, portrait and landscape. So we just click OK, and you'll see there's the map. Okay?
how about recording information, book and page and,
Yeah, sure. So you can send that map to your printer.
Yeah.
I've got this parcel already selected, so I can go in. Here's the photo that's
The photo.
comes right out of
Yep.
your software. I can look at, this is a built-in CI property card. If you're not serving your tax cards online with someone now, which I assume you're not, I don't know, then you won't have to pay for that service because it's included in this service. So we click on the property card. And now you see, this is customizable, what information is shown on the card specifically.
okay. So
But-
this might address partially what is Mitch's concern.
I don't know, I think it would come from a different direction, but,
Yeah.
this is the tax card. And again, you show whatever information you want to show. That's this, in the setup, we determine what information you want to include there. And
Oh, we'll see, there's your sketch.
there's your building sketch.
I think that's what makes people nervous.
Well, but, they can come in here and get it too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's, once it's in our doors, it's
Yep.
open to the public.
yeah.
And you can get it from Google, or who else was, Ken
Yeah.
was?
So, and so you can, well, the point is you can include it or not include it. It's entirely up to you.
Can you protect certain features of that for just the admins and
Yeah, see,
investors, the public can only?
yeah,
get
you
certain-
can. There's an extra fee,
Of course.
but there's a staff login here, so we can develop staff sites. It's an extra $900 a year to have staff sites. That staff site can include protected data or utility. We've got a tool that we've built that allows you to upload and link your own data. A building permit, you want to scan it and link it, the tool will allow you to link a building permit to that or whatever. But
Miscellaneous information that you can.
whatever you want to
scan
link to
in.
those parcels, exactly. But it requires a staff site. So you can have data available to the public and data available just internal.
Yeah, I think having a floor plan of people's homes online, I recognize that that's public information, but I think as we discussed previously, someone that really wants that has to come in here and present themselves and face someone for that. This is so anonymous. Anybody has no, I have, it feels a little weird to me, and I hope you know these people, and if they're friends,
Oh, yeah, but it's-
they may have a problem with you showing their house on there, but
We haven't-
it just feels a little
Yeah,
uncomfortable to me.
I understand where you're coming from, but I can tell you that historically, the exact opposite has been the problem. Because we have a couple of CAMA vendors that don't allow their building footprints to come out, and we can't publish them without doing it through them, and the client doesn't want to pay for them to do it, and it's very frustrating to the client that they can't put building footprints up there. So what?
And we use CAMA.
Yeah.
Well, I say CAMA in the
Or
generic
just in
sense,
generic. Oh, okay.
not the state
Okay.
CAMA.
Okay.
Typically, it's really, the issue has been, we want it up there and we can't, not, it can be up there and it isn't. But
Yeah.
quite frankly, it makes no difference to me. It's a local decision.
Yep.
And It's what everybody's comfortable with.
It's right, not really it's a more of a footprint, it's not a interior
Can you bring
sketch.
that back up a
Want to
little?
bring it back?
And
up?
it
Sure.
looked like the floor plan of the house.
Well, it's,
That one is, Karen.
I mean, it's showing where the bedrooms are and...
no, it's not.
Oh, it's not?
No, that's what I wanted to point out. There's no, all it's giving you is story height here.
It's giving you dimensions of
Yeah, right.
rooms.
Dimensions of rooms and stories.
One-story cathedral.
Yep.
Yep.
That's what it says. It doesn't actually give in the room.
There's no room-specific
And
information.
those are the figures we use to generate square footage.
So that's, you know, that's a local decision, quite frankly, and, you know, whatever is appropriate for you is what you're comfortable with.
Yep.
The next thing I'll show you, which is this next very common function that towns want this for, is, I'm going to widen this a little bit, is to do a butters list. So I can, now I've selected this parcel, I can go in here, I can do, what's in a butters, what is typically a butters here? A direct a butters, or is there a footage?
Direct.
Direct. So I'll leave that as 0. And I'll hit select. And now it's going to show all the parcels of the Now typically, direct to butters includes across the road. So we've developed this add remove tool. So I'm going to say I need this one and I need this one. And I can get a report. And again, this report is customized to what information
Isn't
you
that
want to
great?
include on the report.
Really
That
good.
saves warning meetings.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then you
And
can
title
also,
searching.
you can
Yep.
also do mailing labels.
Wow. Wow.
Of course, you can print that, just like I showed you printing the other one. I won't go through it now and waste everybody's time, but you can print it and things like that. So those are two very quick, simple, common things that virtually every town that sees it, and that's what they want to be able to do with it.
Huge time.
Of course, I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to show you various map layers. I don't know what is in Weston, what is
We're
showing.
waiting for the new tax map to be put in, but I don't think it's in yet.
Oh, okay. New tax map?
Well, they just updated it. and-
Oh, okay, but as far as, you don't have zoning or anything like that there?
No, well,
You do-
I'm sorry, not tax map, zoning map.
Oh, okay,
That's
okay,
being worked on.
okay.
How
So we
about surface water? We're talking about
He's got
flooding.
some-
There you go.
hydrologic features map. Now, understand that the setup of this site, the fee for the setup includes whatever data are available that you want to show. So one of the things we do, we contact
okay.
VCGI and the Regional Planning Commission, and whatever other data you may have, if it's already in digital form, we'll include it if you want it. And part of the setup, we go through the exercise of, okay, here's stuff, what do you want to show? What do you want to include?
You can get like soil samples and
Yeah,
911 overlay of structures, where all
That's
the
right,
structures
that's right.
are. You get roads, labels,
Yep.
you get soils, you can do surface, surface, or even groundwater mapping if you
Zoning.
want,
FEMA flood mapping.
FEMA flood, yeah.
Whatever you want to include, that's available
available.
digitally already.
Available.
If we have to digitize it, or if we have to go out, say you want to show hydrants, and you don't have any hydrants,
Right.
there'd be a fee to go out and collect those, or you'd collect them yourselves. But if you already have a database with X and Y coordinates of your hydrants, give it to us, we'll put it up there, all as part of the setup fee.
So, okay, so Franco, of the estimate, the proposal that you have, what of the costs here is sensitive to us identifying the data layers that we want? Just
What
the
is it?
setup cost?
The data layers you decide on
Yeah.
will not affect these costs at all.
Oh,
Okay. If there's 100 data layers already available, and you want 100 of them up there, we'll put them all up there. Okay? The only caveat to that is going forward. If you get a new data
Right.
layer, the Regional Planning Commission does a project for you, and you want to incorporate those data. If you wait for your next annual update, we'll do it, no charge. But if you have to have it up there now, $250 per event. If you got 4 data layers and you have to have them up there now, $250. Okay?
Oh, wow.
So it's just per event, it's $250 unless you wait for your annual maintenance. It's typically, there's not something that's so critical, you got to get it up there right away. But if you want it in the middle of the year, $250 to put 1, 2, 3, or 4 more layers up there that exist. But as part of your annual service, you get it.
Annual update.
And
And then they're updated, and then it's updated each year. If there's new soil map comes out between this year and next, that would be included in next year's update, the updates to that layer?
Yes, but I will say this, we don't police it. We don't find out, we don't continue to look to see if there's new soils data. But if you know there's new soils data, and tell us, we'll get it, and we'll put it up for you as part of the maintenance. Okay? You're looking at me like that doesn't make sense.
Oh, no, it does. I'm just thinking more about, we won't always know that there's more data available. We wouldn't know that they have finished the flyovers and are redoing orthophotos.
Yeah, okay, the
again.
ortho photos we are aware of, that just
Okay, so
happens.
you would
We
know
it,
that.
So we would put those, the new ones up.
Anything led by VCGI, you would know about.
Yeah, they typically send emails out that says, okay, these data are ready for this county, so we'll know it exists.
And they just.
But I wouldn't know some local project you may have done.
Right.
I just,
Okay.
and even if you gave it to the Regional Planning Commission, or the Regional Planning Commission did it for you, we don't always know that it exists.
Okay.
So, it'd be incumbent upon you to let us know that you want to add that data set.
So the extra cost for the locking down of some information versus other, you said was, well, how much?
$900.
Just one-time fee?
It's an annual fee of $900 to set up and maintain that staff site, and that gives you 5 logins.
That's 5 listers and...
It could be, the listers could have one, the town administrator could have one, the selectman could have one. You could share one, but up to 5 separate logins. We don't have anybody who's used 5, so up to 5 separate logins for that $900 fee. And then you could have certain data password protected and other data public,
I mean, you give...
rather than not having it available at all internally.
I mean, I think this is good for people who want to know who their abutters are. I mean, that's good.
Absolutely.
I just think some of
There's no information in here that's not already currently
Everything's
public?
public information. We do have some sites that have data that are not public information, but they're under staff sites. So only municipal staff have access to them.
That's a 900.
It's kind of the privacy part of it. Worst part of my problem with any of that.
Yeah, well, you mean you're talking about from a legal perspective for public information?
Well,
Or
just my privacy.
Yeah. Everything you...
I'm getting into our lives bad enough now, we don't need any more.
Well, everything you see here is public information, so the difference is they won't have to come here and get it. That's really what it boils down to. Or request a copy of it digitally, because you have to give it to them if it's available digitally anyways. If someone calls up or sends a letter saying, I want the data, you got to give it to them, so they'll have it locally. But
It'll also help because the lister's office is only open a
Right.
few hours a week, so
Right.
someone can get it without having to wait 3 or 4 days, and so it's an advantage that way.
Oh, I see it as a huge convenience, within limits. Because I think we need to figure that out in terms of what information is all public.
Yeah, and one of the great things too is when we set it up and it's ready for your review, we'll leave it password protected as long as you want it.
Yeah.
So you can start playing with it and get comfort with it or not.
Yeah.
And decide whether you want to spring for a staff site because the information's available and important to you, or do you just want to take it down, certain data down and not publish it at all. But we have some clients that we have Massachusetts clients that has all their kindergarten students mapped. They use it for routing and for emergency services. The cops, they want to know where all these things are. So of course, that staff site, that's password protected.
Yeah.
They aren't going to show that to the public.
Right.
Whereas other things, some towns keep their water system and sewer system password protected at a
Right.
layer.
Right.
A lot of them just put it out to the public. It's local decision.
What are the miscellaneous lines, like flood lines, and what are on the left?
Miscellaneous, these are just layers in the data, so there might be like dashed property lines or right-of-way lines where they just go under miscellaneous.
Okay. catch all.
Yeah, so you see these are grayed out. They come, as you zoom in, you'll see they start to show up. Okay? So now different ones turned on. See, now tax map text did not turn on because I've got it on at all scales, visible at all scales, that says if you open it up. But you can also, here's the aerial photograph, so now when I'm zoomed in this tight, you're gonna see, this is the state orthophotography, not the stuff that's served by Esri. And unfortunately, this is the best photography available right now for Weston. Some parts of the state have much better, higher resolution color photography. I don't really know what's available here off the top of my head.
Bennington County?
I'm not sure.
They update about every 10 years.
Seems like I saw an email come across my desk about data for Bennington County, but I just don't remember. Okay, so let me just go back to, again, please stop me whenever. I know you have a meeting to do and we can talk about this for a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's measure tools that come with it. They're very easy to use graphic tools or measure tools. So if I want to measure an area, in this, because I have it up, I'll say you want to know the size of this field. I'm not going to be very careful about it, but I can go around this field, and there's 6.4 acres in that area.
It's pretty cool.
Very simple, point and click. Okay. I also have a distance measuring tool, so I can pick a point and measure, whatever.
On a road, or measure frontage, or, yeah.
So those are simple to use measure tools. There's also graphic tools, so I can create a point, and I can say, all right, I'm going to go right here, and my inspector's out there. I can create a point there, and I want to label it, let me go to text. I want to label it, I do this because one of our clients actually did do this. They went out and mapped their failed septics.
Boy.
Failed septic, click OK.
Yeah, we're gonna need to do that.
So you can do stuff like that. We have one of our clients used it, they had a parade. They were, last summer there was their, I was gonna say bicentennial, I don't know if what it was, it might have been tricentennial. But, so they had a parade route that they created and posted so that people could see that. So there's all kinds of tools you can create, you can draw lines here. So you can create and you can print that. So you might want to let go. Let go. I hate this mouse pad. I can erase everything. That abutters tool, I want to show you another thing that we found out by mistake. So when this is the identify tool. You'll see as I jump from parcel to parcel. I select that one. Let me go back up here so you can see. Let's go to this one as a photo. Hey, where's my photos? Don't have
I
photo?
may not have one.
Oh, okay. Let's try this one. Okay, oh, that's one we're
Same
looking
one,
at.
yeah.
So you can see the data change as you jump from parcel to parcel.
That's a nice
okay?
looking.
But I can also go here and do what we found out, minus 20, and select, and I got 20-foot setback all the way around it. Parcel.
That's cool.
Yeah.
For zoning. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That
you have
is-
to understand that you're limited by the accuracies of the mapping.
Sure,
But
sure.
nonetheless, it's a
Yeah.
good tool.
Yep.
I had to do something like a sketch for a garage I was building before. I just went online, just did it. That's how I did it, because you had to show that you were off the property line. And where I live, they don't require anybody to go out and measure it and survey it or anything like that. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West in Littleton. You can do anything you want, really, but fact of the matter is, it's a tool that can be used for, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that's the identify. Areas of interest. Wow, you got a lot of interesting areas in Weston.
Yeah, Weston.
So these are just really kind of bookmarks that we set up, and so you don't have to find it every time. So we just I just don't want to take too long to regenerate with stuff. So if I want to go to the Weston Library, Zoom goes right to it. Zoomed in a little too tight, but town office.
Want to stick it trout club.
But that's zooming in too tight. Have you used these at all?
Which one? Yeah.
Why is that zooming in? Is that intended to be that tight? When you-
I don't think so. I don't use it very often.
Trout
Yeah.
club one time.
Well, if you notice those types of
Yes,
things,
but-
fire an email to Eric and he'll take care of it.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I was invited to become a member.
My friends will-
So that's areas of interest. You can have as many or as few as you want there.
You want to show them Bing or not?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what
So-
was that aspect?
So
That
here we
I
are
didn't get
in
from
Weston,
before.
we're somewhere in Weston, we're on Main Street in Weston. There's this Bing tab up here, at least for right now, it's Bing. If I click on that now, I'm going out to the Bing site and I'm at the exact same spot, only now I'm in Bing's site using their tools. Okay, so in this case, doesn't look like they have Bird's Eye available there, do
Yeah,
they?
the biggest, that's the Western Country Store.
The store, yeah.
But in some areas, depending on, so as Bing gets better data, in some areas they've got 3D data, you know, who knows when they'll have it here. But in a lot of areas they have the obliques, so you can look at it around it.
Right.
Your site improves just because Bing improves. Now, going forward, we may not stick with Bing, we might put Google in there instead, but right now Bing is there because Bing and Microsoft and Esri had a business relationship. So, and there's no cost associated with it, so we just built that in.
Cool.
And if I go back to the map, I go back to the same place.
Listers, how would this help your life?
It would transform, wouldn't it?
Well, it will transform the way we do business. We would have, it would be very interesting, after a couple of years, you would have potentially less walk-in traffic, people bugging the zoning administrator for information that's available. I mean, it's
I suspect that'll be sooner than a couple of years.
sooner than a couple,
Based on our
okay.
history.
You figure it was about a 12-month startup, you think? To digitize and
Yeah, I don't remember.
build the initial GIS?
Yeah, we'd probably want 120 days to get the conversion done, and
Okay.
then 90 days from there to get the website up and running. So all in all, you might be looking at 7 months, 6-7 months for the whole project.
It'll take a few months to call it out.
And then we have to do some maintenance work, yeah.
Now, one thing I did want to show you too, I don't want to, again, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just so you, this happens to be one of our Massachusetts clients, but it's pretty well heeled. They've got a lot of data, so they've got their plans linked. As we do their updates, this plans are scanned and we link them to the parcel, so it doesn't seem to be coming up very quickly.
The nice part, one of the things you're asked about helping listers is when you're working with those paper maps, you could have one parcel on map 13.
Right,
And you gotta
yeah.
go find the other one, which is half, the rest of the parcel is at another place, and this
Yeah.
would just eliminate that process.
Oh, yeah, that's right, and trying to make copies for someone and
Seamless.
Right.
yeah.
and missing 3 times before you get on the copy the right way. But there you see their deed is linked to that parcel, so you have it at your fingertips. And this is all public, actually. I tried to open the plan, but it doesn't want to open. That's already taking longer than it should, so something's going on. Let me try another parcel.
Okay.
Something's going on with their plans. I have to
Could,
call Eric.
just one last question about
There it is.
There it is.
price points and whether you have a server or the cloud on,
Yeah, everything's hosted on the cloud. We use Amazon, so it's all hosted on Amazon's servers. There's the survey that was used for that parcel.
Obviously, you do periodic backups, or, I mean, you can, if something happens to Amazon, you can reload up pretty quickly and
Yeah, in fact, it automatically spins up another server and open, there's very, very short,
yellow window.
yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
I'm good.
Karen?
No, I'm good. It's terrific.
Margie, anything else right now?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Any other comments? Lister?
Will we have another chance for discussion about exactly how much information we want? For example, even though it's public information, if people have to make the effort to come in, it's different than being able to have strangers all over the country able to get in there. So, should we talk about how much is available out in the field as opposed to coming in here?
Yeah, and I think, as I recall Franco's conversation, is even, we could set it up even, let's say, with more, and after we get looking at it, we can say, no, we don't want to include that.
Yeah.
And then just, either password protect it, so it has to be one of us, if you will, that generates it, or just eliminate it altogether. So the answer to that is definitely yes. That will be a topic of conversation as we, during the development, assuming the board would think we should move forward, or we get to the point of signing a contract, that definitely will be part of the discussion.
Okay. I have one other little issue that is a very niggling thing. Dean, the former map person, gave us a notebook of, I forget how many pages, where there is a discrepancy in the acreage. And since he found it, he begged Angie to make corrections. She never wanted to tackle it. Understandably, it's going to be pretty awful. One of the property owners has, instead of 100 and something, has 92 acres. That will make a big difference, either in their tax bill or scalability. However, I've found one or two parcels here in town where they think they have a quarter of an acre, and according to Dean's computer thing, they have .12. I don't even know if you could build on .12 acres, could you? Anyway, it's this kind of thing that, will these corrections be automatic when you get going, Franco, or do we have to go through that book?
Yeah, I mean, discrepancies between the data exist regardless of, all we're going to do is reformat the data to be able to be utilized in this manner and generate your tax maps. But the discrepancies that are there before will be there afterwards too. We typically will deal with those as part of the maintenance service when we get things are solved or corrected. When we do the updates, our maintenance service includes not only processing new deeds or surveys that are recorded, but also dealing with any problems that come up. Some of our clients deal with those problems internally and then just send us the results. A lot of our clients say, we don't maintain the maps, those idiots in Littleton do. They give them our card and we deal with it, everything. And we let you know if there should be a map change. And it's really a local decision on how you guys want to deal with it. We'll do it either way. But our maintenance service includes dealing with those things. But don't think for 1 second that that list of discrepancies is going to disappear all of a sudden. In fact, because of the power of these tools, you may find more than what you thought you had. Yeah, I don't want to mislead anybody, but that's good. I mean, that means it gives you the chance to make the data better.
Right, because ultimately we want it right. So at some point we got to thumb through that book and start.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
yeah. Okay,
Deanie, any other questions?
that's it.
Larry?
I'm good.
All right, well then I guess I'll pose a question to you now. Based on this, what would be the lister's thoughts on, what would you like us to do? How would you like to proceed?
I would recommend that we go ahead with
see this?
That's,
I've got it on here, but
Okay.
I'm not pulling up the right one.
Concurred, okay.
So you'd be looking for a motion to go forward with the approving a 3-year contract in the total amount of $17,700 with a yearly total fee of $5,900?
That's correct.
Is that the way you would understand it? And you would anticipate that the funding for that would come out, I'm assuming, from the Listers Reappraisal Fund, where we have monies to cover maintenance and, okay,
Along with the mapping piece that's already in the budget.
right. So I would make that motion.
Is it, kind of clarification, is it a motion to get the contract and sign the contract
Yes, the motion is to approve
moving forward?
moving forward with the 3-year contract. And I think that once I don't know what the terms of the what your contracts look like.
Yeah, sure.
But I would
don't know if it's
imagine.
appropriate for me to speak right now, but to
Well,
answer
we
your
probably
question.
should get a second for
Yeah.
discussion.
So we have a motion on the table to move forward with the proposal with CAI Technologies.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Wasn't
Discussion.
there some other companies that were bidding on this, or no?
There were three vendors. Why don't you bring us up to speed? There was,
well, Jim probably can't better than I.
Well, we talked to another company called Technology, was it Cartographic Technologies out of
Yep, yeah.
Newfane? And then Dean Russell was the third, and then Franco was.
okay.
And we had the issues with Dean, so that put him out of the play. And the other mapping company does not do anything on a cloud-based system. They're strictly working off disks, and you can't update them except annually when you send in revisions. The ability to do anything with them, you can't bring up the property maps or the property itself. You don't have any of the features that we get here. So in the final analysis, I think it makes the most sense to go with Franco, and I've got him in 3, I work for 5 towns, and I have him now in 3 towns.
Other than us, or included, that would be including us?
No, you will be the 4th,
Okay,
if we do it here.
okay.
And I found it's been a great relationship, and obviously there are times when you have to work at it, but everything has worked as he has presented.
Thank you. Does that,
That answers my question.
okay.
So would you anticipate if we approve this going forward, then the actual contract, I would assume, would come back to the board for final
I'll put together
approval
a
and
formal
signatures?
proposal. These emails are just
Yes.
get
Right,
budget figures.
right,
I'll
right.
put together a formal proposal that details all the services and a contract that associates with that. And of course, the town will own everything. And one of the things I want to point out is although we'll be doing all this stuff, and it'll be on the web, you will also get a CD or a DVD, a CD every year with your current data. And it'll be in standard GIS format, so you aren't married to it. Well, you will be for
Right.
3 years,
Yeah.
unless we screw up. But you aren't married to us going forward. It's standard data that can be used by the Regional Planning Commission or by anybody else using GIS services.
But it's our data.
You own
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
It'll clearly state that you own everything as well.
okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion by the board? There being none, all those in favor of moving forward to the contract stage, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Franco, for coming out and showing us this tool. Look forward to...
Very welcome. I appreciate the opportunity, I really do. I'm going to be a little bit of a pain for you because I got to let this cool down before I can unplug it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank the listers for, really moving on this. I mean, clearly, this is going to be a huge convenience to the townspeople, not only just you, but clearly to the town, and thank you, Jim, for your guidance on this.
Every department will have access to it, and
Right.
that's the beauty of what you're selling, or what
Yep.
we're getting.
Right.
Again, it's a town-wide project. We're all gonna-
Yes, exactly.
We'll all work together to make it happen.
Yep. No, I think it's great.
It's a rewarding adventure.
Yep.
Thank you for your support, or I do anyway.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think I can speak to the list or something else.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda for this evening. You can just let that sit, Colonel. It doesn't bother me, so.
Want to move that away?
I did not have time to email you, so unfortunately, you're going to have to look at a piece of paper. This is the most up-to-date
Even newer than the one you did send.
pricing sheet as a result of today's discussions and clarifications. Ken has it.
I'll have one. I got the old one, I think.
Yours is close, Karen.
Yeah.
I got this one. I think I got the right one.
All right, what I'm going to do is go fuel by fuel and start with the left-hand columns being a summary of the bids we received for diesel. And we only had one bidder, and we have had problems getting more than one, maybe two bidders in prior years. The trend has been to fewer and fewer proposals for fixed pricing on diesel. We did at one point have fixed prices with Haskins several years ago. They did not bid this year. John Ray and Sons has come in at a variable price proposal. They are our current vendor for diesel, so we have their tank here at the town garage. We would not have to swap a tank. The proposal to us for this year is actually 4 cents less per gallon delivered compared to last year. But the downside is that it is not a fixed price contract. Now, I went, if you want to use the fuel oil prices as any indication of where we might end up with pricing for fuels, you know, diesel or fuel, a delivered cost on Friday of $3.03 is pretty competitive. We averaged last year, our low, through John Ray, our low price for diesel was just this past April with, again, about $3 a gallon. The highest we paid was $3.70 a gallon. And that was really we ever only got that high for, and that, we had only 2 deliveries at the peak of the season with pricing that high, maybe 3. So the average price that I calculated for us last year was in the, what did I figure for average? Average was about $3.43 a gallon, which is very interesting that the fixed prices for number 2 fuel for this year are in that range. But getting back to diesel, we only have one bid. I suggest that unless the board would like to rebid, that we accept a variable, it's not even a contract, but that we elect to inform John Ray we accept their proposal at 14 cents over the Port of Albany cost. So that would be diesel.
Do you want to address these one at a time?
Why don't I just do the summary?
Okay.
And then
all
you
right.
can, and then for number 2 fuels, which are the 2 middle columns, we had several fixed prices, but mostly from Miles Lumber. The majority still provided us with only variable pricing. And we've never done variable pricing for number 2 fuel before. We have usually stuck with an amount that that is predictable and comes in under budget. In order to do that, I recommend that we take a look at West Oil way down at the bottom. We have $3.34 a gallon there or thereabouts for the pre-buy fixed, but a 10-month budget plan, so we can pay through 10 payments instead of having to pay it all up front, is about 5 cents more a gallon, at 3.39. That would be one recommendation of mine, would be to look at that solution, or, as you note in the column for the 531.13 delivered prices to us, which would have been, what would it have cost us to buy fuel from any one of these folks on Friday, this past Friday? Green's Oil comes in at the lowest cost delivered. And they came in at 2.9915 per gallon at a variable rate.
Why am I not
But
seeing
they're,
that?
oh, because this is updated. That's, I had,
Oh, that's why it's...
that's,
Yeah, like that.
yeah. So,
Operator.
yeah. I don't know. Their fixed pricing doesn't come out until July. They don't, it's not available now. So the board I can't predict what that would be. Would they be that much lower than the other, the $3.34 or the $3.39 of West Oil? I just don't know. Propane, I think we ought to accept the fixed price from HL Fuels / HL Propane. It's at a 1.779 per gallon, and that is less than we're paying this year. That's the lowest we've paid for propane. That is less. That is going back to 2009 and 2010 pricing. But that's probably happening nationwide because of the supply. So that would be my recommendation to propane, would to be to award that fixed price contract to HL Propane. So I guess the only question I have is how you feel like you want to move on the used on diesel. If you still feel like you want another supplier, or if you want to just indicate to John Ray that we would like to continue to do business with them, which I actually recommend, because I can't guarantee that we're going to have anybody that's more competitive. They deliver a lot of diesel to the area.
Margie, do you know, I'm just trying to figure it out quickly. I was looking at our budget and looking at although we have gas, oil, and diesel combined on the line item.
For the garage?
Yeah, the garage, firehouse is 4,000,
But that's part of, it's part of the,
but diesel, gas, oil, and diesel, so, the total of those two line items for firehouse and garage is $56,000, and I'm trying to figure out what our budget, that would be like a little over $4, but I know it's not all diesel. So...
yeah, I'd like to start breaking out the fire department's budget.
Yeah, but
So
I'm
we know
wondering
diesel.
even what hours. If I take that amount and
Oh, for the garage?
look at $13,000.
If you look under vehicle, that's all diesel.
Okay,
We
so
look
that's...
under,
Yeah, that's what I looked at, $52,000, but
that 52,000 is primarily
diesel.
We hardly ever buy any gas.
So-
It's minimal.
It looks like, again, we budgeted close to $4 a gallon for diesel in our budget.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Even with an increase over...
Yeah,
Yeah, even at 377 or 380,
Yeah, an
we're
average. Yeah.
still fine.
yeah, yeah,
And we know we're under budget, even with West Oil.
that's right.
The budget for, the combined budgets for number 2 fuel we figured is $22,800.
Right.
And if you take the West Oil figure on 10 payments at the $3.399 a gallon, we come up at a little over $21,000. So we're under budget.
Okay, I guess let's start with diesel. What's the pleasure of the board? Shall we proceed with the...
Terry's here too, maybe we could ask, do you have any thoughts?
Any thoughts on diesel?
We've only received variable pricing from John Ray. Nobody else bid.
Haskins did?
Haskins did not bid. And they would reduce the margin cost to us by 4 cents a gallon over what we're paying now.
We're at 18 cents now, right?
We're at 18 cents, right, over the Port of Albany right now with them.
18 cents over rack or 18?
Oh, over, yeah, over
Yeah.
rack or Albany.
Cost, their cost.
Oh, yeah. But they'd go down 14 cents.
It's not terrible, with trucking and everything else included.
Right.
Thoughts? Is there any reason, do we proceed, or?
I would make a motion that we accept the variable rate from John Ray
At cost plus
at
14?
cost plus,
Any
plus
problem
14
with their fuel?
cents.
We haven't had it.
Okay.
They gave
Good
us all
question.
brand new equipment and everything.
Yeah, no, because that can make a big difference sometimes.
Sure
Yeah.
can.
I second it. I second the motion.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. All right, number 2, fuel. This is the one that we have a couple options. Margie has, her suggestion is, if I summarize it correctly, that to look at a budget payment, a 10-payment structure with West Oil at a price of $3.39 per gallon. That is her suggestion, $339.9. Any other thoughts or suggestions? Or
Here's,
On the greens oil, Margie?
well, Greens did not give a fixed yet. It's not available to July.
Well, the way I read this though, that it's $2.99, and then if you add the 21, it'd be $3.20?
No, I'm sorry, the cost plus .21 that's a descriptor of how much is added to the base price to get to the $2.99. So the $2.99 is our price. Anything in that column is what we pay on delivery at a variable rate. That would fluctuate.
That was based on a few days ago. So there's no guarantee as to, there's no predictability.
Now,
on that.
there is Miles Lumber's price protection plan. You have 4 lines, the top 4 lines right after Miles Lumber. You have a price protection, a pre-buy. The not-to-exceed cap would be $3.49 a gallon. But what price protection means is that we would never pay more than that, but we would also realize savings if the market dropped. We could still get a lower cost.
But doesn't that cost us 25 cents a gallon?
Well, it costs you $119.
Oh, 119, that's all.
That's $119
also, that's
to
like
enter
a fee.
as their, so it's just like an administrative fee on their setup. And,
All right, so that's basically adding an extra 2 cents per gallon.
and what that, yeah, so, but we would never go below $2.89 a gallon. The downside protection started, I don't know, 6, 7 years. I was still in my old job, and I remember fuel prices dropped so much one year that people lost their shirt. And we still had people locked in at over $4 a gallon or something. And the fuel suppliers had all also purchased at that higher rate, but the actual price per barrel just tanked. And so now they want to protect themselves, so they don't want to go any lower. Miles would never go lower than $2.89. And then what would happen, this gets complicated because they said, well, how do we know what do we pay you? Miles has said that what you pay is you pay at the cap, you pay them up front at the not to exceed. So we would be paying them in either 4 installments or 10 installments on the $3.49 a gallon or $3.54 a gallon. But then come April, after the season's over, they would turn around and reconcile with us, and we would take back in the form of a credit or a check, whichever we asked for, those gallons that were delivered at prices less than that amount.
So basically, you audit towards the end of the
There's an
term, and
audit.
so the end result is you may pay more upfront, but you ultimately, it all
Even
washes
less.
out.
And then their fixed price, where we don't have any of that protection, there's no cap and there's no downside, you have just the regular fixed pricing is $3.38, $3.43, or $3.48, and that's still higher than West Oil.
Don't they have another plan where you get 12 cents off a gallon if you're going to pay on a payment plan? Because that's what we have to have in St.
10 cents off?
There's 3 options. One is the $119 you have to pay, the price protection.
Right.
And there's the middle option that I think that is like $250 you have to pay. And the last
Oh, they didn't give that to
option,
us.
you don't have to pay anything.
Yeah, they didn't offer
They
us-
didn't offer that to us.
They didn't offer that option. Maybe to residential customers only, possibly.
And you get 12 cents off whatever going anyways.
If you pay within a certain 10 days or something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Thoughts?
So
My-
yeah, go ahead.
My thought is that, I mean, I'm not sure that I'm willing to wait until July
Right.
for Green's fixed price program, because it means, frankly, the time and expense of having to go out to bid again. Advertising and, Margie going through this whole process again. It doesn't save a lot of money, although it's $310, if we looked at West Oil and did a pre-buy. I mean, you're saving 5 cents a gallon, so the total is $310. We have it budgeted, it would bring us in under budget, almost $2,000, I think, under what we've budgeted. And we'd be able to pay it. We could pay it all up front. It's not as though we're going to make that money up in interest if we do it in 4 payments or 10 payments. So it's, and it's predictable. It's predictable, and it's done. And I don't know, it may be that we could save an extra, whatever. It's kind of a crapshoot. Oil is a crapshoot.
Did any of the companies mention to you, Margie, that you waited a little bit, that you possibly could get a better price? Did they mention that to you? Or-
Well, I know that for a fact that, for instance, Greens is watching. They're waiting.
Usually
Some of the smaller,
You get normally the best price is the end of June for some reason.
well,
That's when I did the propane, it was always.
no, Terry, we waited 1 year based on that recommendation, and we did not. We
We
lost the
didn't,
opportunity
yeah.
to lock in
Yeah.
competitively.
Yeah.
But I think the end of June is June, and we waited, you had said August, late July, August, so we were getting our pricing in August, which was definitely too late. But yeah, she's waiting. She says prices are going down.
Yeah, usually June.
And that's why we're getting our deliveries at around $3 a gallon. But when you look at what other vendors are doing, banking on, when they're looking at the heating season as a whole, when they set their fixed prices, they're all in the low 330s up to 350. And we were at 3.569 this year. So it's hard to, I'd like to get down below where we were last year, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that option. So
Well, we are.
Yeah.
We are. I mean, last year, the current year, we're paying, well, in any case, so what were we paying, 356 or something? Yeah.
So basically, if we're lower than last year, that's already, we're off to a good start.
22 cents, we're
If
22
you
cents under
Take
that.
that pre-buy, Marty, that from,
334 in West.
West,
was it West or Miles?
I was looking at West.
West is 334.9.
Yeah, if you take the pre-buy, they put that oil somewhere separate for us, so if somebody.
Yeah, I have 48 hours to get back to her. She buys it.
Then no matter what happens.
That's
we got
right.
it.
That's
got
ours.
That sounds good to me.
All right, I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I would make, wait a minute. Did we already do a motion on
I think I
the
just
John
did.
Ray?
I think-
Yeah.
No, wait a minute, I'm
Yeah,
going
we
back
did,
to
we did.
John Ray.
Yes, we did
That one is
that.
already done?
And that's all
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
So I believe I have a motion from Ken to accept a pre-buy, pay in full from West Oil at a price of $334.9 for our number 2 fuel oil.
I'll second it. My understanding from Margie in talking about this earlier today is that we can do it in 4 payments, but they need to be completed by
October
October
31st.
31st.
For the same price?
Yes,
That's what it, yeah.
yes.
Is that a friendly modification? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of approving a West Oil pre-buy, 4 payments by October 31st at $334.9, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. The last one should be a pretty easy one. Propane. Recommendation is to take the budget plan fixed price at $1.77.9 that's paid between September and April. That is by far the lowest bid we received.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I would entertain a motion to approve that bid.
I'll make that motion for 1.779. And I just have a question if there's a second for discussion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Karen?
Margie, do you remember what it was that we budgeted? And that, I'm assuming that is under budget based on some of our earlier conversations?
Yeah, I did take a look at that. Water Department utilities is 1,800, and fire, we have only estimated 200 gallons. So let's see, what did I come up with? The total usage we're estimating is 350 gallons. It's very hard to break it out from the budget.
Actually, we're looking at 600 propane gallons.
600, I'm sorry, I don't know what I said.
Yeah, I think 300, I'm trying to remember.
It's
what we had.
600 gallons, that's
Yeah.
what we advertised for.
Right.
But to find it, the water department budget was 1,800. And to add to that is the fire department line item, which is, see, it's 9,000, but that includes, it says utilities, so it's utilities and propane, which is why I would like this budget to change. So a portion of that 9,000 is also towards propane.
Okay.
So we're talking
But
that,
we're well under budget. I think we
Now, does
budgeted,
The
this-
water department alone could
Yeah.
finance this.
I think we budgeted somewhere in the $3 range for propane, so this would be well under budget.
are we contracted to buy 600 gallons, or is that up to 600 gallons?
No, it would be 600. Now,
I guess it doesn't matter, that price. would-
but here's the thing that I'm thinking of now. That price is only available starting in September. So if we need any fuel, which I don't think we're going to need, but if we do need propane between now and then, it's going to be at a market rate. And subsequent to April 15th, it would be at a market rate.
Which was $1.69 as of 5/31.
Well, it's the margin is cost plus 49 cents.
But he's looking at the John Ray's cost plus 45 is $1.69.
I'm looking at the HL fuel for the cost.
You don't know at this point what we have left in our tanks?
Well, I do. We're ahead. We've taken on more propane this year, and that was another issue. But we haven't had propane deliveries since February. They only had to top off Buck Hill Fire Station, and the water department took on 141 gallons, which is only half of its annual usage.
So I still think we're going to do just fine.
Yeah, this is, I'm
Okay.
not seeing this as much of a,
Yeah, it's the same.
Yep, yep.
yeah, so, all right, any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of approving the budget fixed price to HL Fuels, the cost at the rate of $177.9, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Margie, for putting that
Yeah, thank
tabulation
you very
together.
much.
Margie.
All right, next item, unlicensed dog report. Do we have that?
Judy gave that to me today. She had forgotten. She hadn't sent it to you.
Yeah, I did not see that.
Carefully squeezed out here.
I know, I'm.
We can pass it,
Sorry,
including
I
Sean can get a
had to
copy of
spread out.
this. This isn't, for those that are new to the board, this is an annual happening. The town clerk by statute notifies by a date certain in June, and I think it's by June 15th, of the dogs that are unlicensed, that she knows of. And then, historically, what we do is get on an enforcement mode, which several years ago, when I first got here, involved our constables, would take this list and divide it up and start calling everybody and very nicely encourage them to pay up, or enforcement of this would be handed over to the Judicial Bureau. That's still basically the process, but our constables are not as involved, if they're not involved at all. The select board made some calls one year, I've been making calls, and then after we do the initial calls, the animal control officer takes this over and should proceed as our dog ordinance specifies. So this is really informational for you. Though the one aspect that I'd like to know about how to proceed with is whether or not just to send this right off to our animal control officer. Or if you would like the constables to make the calls this year. I do know we might even have 2 that would be willing to do this.
Have them make the calls.
Okay.
Animal control officer or the constables?
I would say the animal control first, or do you?
Yeah, I like to know, I mean, that's our animal control officer's job.
That is the job.
That is her
First,
job.
Yeah, to have her do it first.
And
if she doesn't
before we
get-
start paying the constables,
Mm-hmm.
an hourly fee to make these calls, I think she needs to be making these calls.
And if she doesn't
Yeah,
get any
yeah.
response in a month or so,
Well, I
Or
think
2 months.
frankly,
Well,
she
there's a
ought to come to
whole
us then.
enforcement
Yeah, there's a whole procedure
triage
in place.
that sets in place, including issuance of tickets, and the enforcement of dog ordinances or animal control ordinances sounds like it's been a real problem issue over the years for some of the smaller towns, and for the first time in many years, the League of Cities and Towns is hosting a workshop, several of which of us are very interested in going, Mitch, just as an FYI. Ken has known about it. One of our constables has asked to go. And I noticed that Bennington has also just adopted new ordinances. So they've been looking at this issue. And the reason I raise that is that we can embark on this course as business as usual, but I think that over the summer, we'll have discussions on this issue, and maybe the way enforcement is undertaken might change.
Yep,
Or
I think we're going to take,
That's on the 16th, isn't it?
somewhere around there.
yeah, I think
Or
that's the
13th.
date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to take a look at our own ordinances and update them as we, now that we have, frankly, I mean, we have constables that are willing to help, should we need that kind of last resort before it hits the court system. But, you know, we have folks that, for long periods of time, have been contacted and just continue to not license their dogs.
The only thing I wouldn't want to get into, Karen, is picking on dogs by name, by breed necessarily.
No,
Rottweilers and pit bulls and
this
like
has
that.
nothing
I
to
don't
do,
go for that stuff.
this has nothing to do with breeds.
Yeah, no, I
This-
understand.
This is,
No, I didn't mean that, Karen.
We're picking on the
We're talking about
owners.
changing our ordinance.
we're picking on the owners, we're not picking,
Oh,
no, no.
no, they ought to be picked on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, then, I would entertain a motion that we accept the unlicensed dog report from the town clerk and assign it to the animal control officer to begin the calls and the the proceedings. I have that motion, do I have a second?
A second, yep.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Excuse me, one Margie, do you know, is Tracy aware of this meeting, the VLCT
Yes.
workshop? Is she going to be going, do you know?
No.
She's not, okay.
It's the 16th, June 16th,
It's the 13th,
13th?
Next week.
I think.
yeah.
I mean, I can
Okay.
confirm that, but.
Yeah. We had emails, I know I downloaded the thing, I can. I'm happy to contact as the liaison to the animal control officer.
Okay.
I will contact her and let her know that the board is turning this over to her and expects her to
Sure.
make these calls,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
All right, next item. We'd discussed last week beginning to look at the parking ordinance for the town based on some concerns with parking that was impeding traffic on two different roads in town in particular. One of them is Dunham Avenue, just outside of North Bennington, where the parking had got to a point that it would be, the complaints were coming both from residents as well as from concerned citizens that live there and the road crew, indicating that that road at times was nearly impassable, at least with larger vehicles, given the parking on both sides of the street haphazardly. The other place is there was beginning to be some concerns along Cleveland Avenue for some of the same reasons, where parking on both sides of the street is causing congestion at best and potential problems for large vehicles such as emergency vehicles to pass in certain places. So tonight is the first review and a potential first reading of possible changes to that ordinance. So the suggestion, I guess I'll start with Margie, had a suggestion that we can begin, at least lead off the discussion with. I think this should be, if the board agrees that there's a concern, I think that the potential wording to amend the ordinance is very simple. But I'll let kind of Margie just lead away for just at her initial thought on this.
Well, if we do choose to amend the ordinance, as I look at it now, we have provision, section 6, called no parking areas, and it seems to make sense that that's probably where we would add in a sentence or two. Now, I was talking with one select board member earlier today, Ken, you can speak for yourself, and the question has come up, is there really an issue on Cleveland? I've inspected Dunham Road, and I agree, I have found, and we have already posted limitations to parking down there, so as far as Dunham Avenue, I'm pretty clear in my own mind that what we should do is amend the ordinance, at least in support of the no parking signs on the south side of Dunham Avenue, so that we can ticket in that area. I'm less clear about Cleveland myself, because I've been driving down there. I'm not there admittedly on the weekends. During the week, I haven't seen the same congestion, but I didn't go down a lot while the snowbanks were still there, and maybe that was really the time of concern.
There's 2 apartment buildings down,
At this end.
yeah, I'm trying to think. Like Meadow Lane, there's 2 apartment buildings right there. Now they're parking out into the street because there's not enough room for the tenants to park in the driveway. During plowing, that's a nightmare to plow down through there. And now the second house down on the right side is a single car driveway basically, and there's 3 or 4 cars there pretty much every evening, and they're parking on that side. And basically all 4 tires are on the roadway. So you got the gold Oldsmobile over on the left side, right in front of the telephone pole, and you got 2 over here. It's just about a zigzag to get through there. I spoke to the girl that drives the Oldsmobile, and she said she just has no other place to park. There's no room at the tenant building for it. But the concern I have is some kids come running out there the other day right by the car, and I saw them coming, but somebody might not see them coming out by that car. And you're looking at the cars on the right, you get a car on the left, and you don't.
I guess I'm wondering how then limiting parking further in that area is going to solve the problem.
Well, no, just one side. If you only at least did one side, we should have a clean.
Oh, I agree with that.
You almost would have to do the sidewalk side so you could see the people walking off the sidewalk coming across the road, I guess. I don't know how else to do it, but.
My thought on that was, I'm wondering if it would be the other side, because if then you have, the sidewalk,
side.
the sidewalk has a defined edge of the road, where on the other side, you end up with people parking off, and then you end up with ruts and parking on the lawn. So that's, I see it one way or the other. My thought would be is that you would park next to the sidewalk, but.
Get down past the park, there's no issue. It's all this side.
It's on that, would be the north end of the.
And they just, even during snow, they park there. You're going around them in the snow.
Well, that we can take it, we just need to enforce that. Unfortunately, it is the landowner's problem, if you will, to provide parking for off-street parking for the tenants. I'd hate to be so blunt, I know it's not it costs money to do that, but that is the responsibility. If you have tenant places, you need to provide a spot for them to park. So, Ken, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, since our last meeting and that was mentioned, I've been trying to make a conscious effort to go around that way. And I think in the last 2 weeks since the meeting, I've noticed 2 or 3 cars basically on the west side of the road, away from the sidewalk, that could have got back farther off the road and shouldn't. I don't think your big problems would be the winter time. With people parking down there.
Well, we have a winter parking ban.
Yeah, and we have winter ordinance. There's no parking at all on the street in the wintertime, so. Because it's not supposed to be, let's put it that way.
I guess they didn't get that memo.
Sometimes you won't get jammed up down by the park. They'll get down there and get on the sidewalk side and get on the other side, but I've only seen that once.
I have a question, and I'm just asking in general, because you've seen you saw it, on a few occasions, you've seen it a little bit more because you brought it to our attention too. Is there any reason that, we have vehicles that park on both sides, is there any reason that the people couldn't park across the street on the other side? Is there places for them to do it? They, obviously they have to walk across the street, it's a little further possibly, or.
Right, they just sort of, I don't see a reason, but they're sort of parking in that person's sort of property front line, I guess you'd call it, or whatever, but I don't see a reason they couldn't.
Okay.
But they dropped a 48-foot trailer down there right in the middle of the road and left it there for the whole weekend. They were moving in, they left it right in the right of way of the road.
Oh, we should have sent the
I
sheriff,
called my
we
buddy
should
the
have sent the
sheriff.
sheriffs down there for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop my truck down and talk to him.
Okay, so there it is. So we have had some thoughts on it. What's the,
Well, I guess I'm not hearing from Terry, that it is a big enough issue, to ban parking.
At 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, when they're all still at home, they haven't left for work yet, you can just about fit the 1 ton of the plow through there, in that area I'm talking about to plow.
I'm not talking about winter, because in winter.
There is, we have enforcement capability already.
We have that. That's already a part of our ordinance. There is no winter parking
Right.
in the town right-of-way, and we can ticket for
All,
that.
everywhere.
It shall be unlawful to park a motor vehicle in the town highway right-of-way between the hours of 11 PM and 6 AM from December 1 through April 1st.
I guess my question is then, just to bring it back to you, is it the right to congest the traffic basically taking a whole lane up to park your car? I mean, I could see if there was 2 wheels on the traveled area or something get through, but like Ken said, some of the people don't even get off the road hardly at all, and they park their car right there. I just thought, there's gotta be some give and take here. That little red house there, there's bushes there, they can't go over no further, and they're this far from the yellow line, parked.
Who?
Well, that's
Craig, you were saying
different
that should
from-
be a tenant, I mean, we should be enforcing it, but how do we enforce that?
Well-
Through the zoning administrator, or?
actually, I don't think that there is, based on, as I read, our only enforcement procedure related to the parking, other than winter, there is no, there's no parking other than the areas that it
That's
says.
what I was wondering.
So right now, as of this moment, the only place that's prohibited is, around the hydrants.
Right.
What about this street?
What about what?
This street?
do
There's
you mean?
signs been here for 10 years, no parking this side of the street. All the way down this side. They've been here for 10 years.
Well, but we have fire, that could be because of fire, it's an
Yeah, but that's-
emergency.
Well, I just was asking if it was
But that should
ordinance.
be in the ordinance.
Yeah, it probably should be.
I think that we might want to update, just include that, because that's already practiced, but I think that, so
Yeah.
there's enforcement capability, I think you probably want to put it in there. Good, that is a good point,
Yeah.
Terry. So I think we should make that amendment. So the answer is no. Now, in the wintertime, we can enforce it on any street during the hours that are already listed. What will happen is that the tenants are not going to be real happy if their landlord hasn't given them a place to park and the police are giving them tickets. And conceivably, they give them a ticket every day.
There's no
So-
police.
Well, we could have
We
the
would have the
sheriff's issue.
sheriff, if we get our signage, okay, I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
So basically, at that point, what it does is that the tenants will force the landlords to have them provide a place for them to park. That's the enforcement issue. We can't compel them to put parking in there, but the tenants are not going to be happy with them if they're getting tickets every day. And the reality is, what it comes back to is that my understanding of the zoning bylaws is that if, let's say, a new tenant unit was developed, let's say it's a house, let's say somebody bought it and turned it into a duplex, for example. And they would have to, as part of making that change, would be required to provide parking for their tenants' vehicles.
Right, by the DRB.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming many of these are already, so that would be a way that we could enforce it up front. But anything that already exists, you don't have many of these that exist for many years, so you would not have that if it wasn't part of their permit when they started, it wouldn't be required now as far as enforceable by any law that's in play.
Well, I think where Terry's parking, there the apartment houses for quite a while.
Yeah, so basically what'll happen though is that the tenants are not gonna be happy when they start getting tickets and there's no play, and the landlord hasn't given them another option.
I guess what brought it to my question, Karen, was I was sort of thinking about the town more so than the hassle plowing. It is a hassle for plowing, but if a car goes onto the other side of the road and somebody can't see around that car and they pull out of their driveway and they have an accident, we have no signs there, who's at fault for that? Is it the car, they're on the wrong side of the road because they had to go around this car and the car coming out of their driveway couldn't see them?
I don't think it's our responsibility, frankly.
Okay.
Motor vehicle laws.
Yeah, I mean, they've got insurance, and they'll fight it out with each other. When this issue was first raised, my concern had more to do with incidences that I have seen with kids coming off of the sides, whether it's the sidewalk or from yards, that, in the summertime, it can get pretty crazed on the weekends down there. And it's just because of the sidewalks, and I spent a lot of time walking that area.
Right.
That was my major concern, frankly, because people tend to drive too fast on that road. And I think cars parked on both sides with a fairly narrow travel lane at that point,
It is.
I think can create a hazard for kids. And that has been my major issue around it.
Well, I did see a sheriff down there a week ago.
Yep.
That slowed him down.
I
Yeah,
asked,
well, good,
we've asked
that's
them
good.
to patrol.
Yeah.
Good, yep.
Yeah, people sometimes think they
Yeah.
use that as a bypass.
And they're
racetrack.
building that into their regular
Right.
shifts.
That speed, I don't know, that little wagon with the.
Yeah, the
Up to your
speed, the
street, is
speed
that ours?
machine,
Yes.
yeah,
We have one.
yeah,
The one you're seeing isn't ours, but we have one.
yeah.
I put it out on Chapella Flats and Peters Flats and Horton Hill all the time.
Did you ever put it on Cleveland Avenue?
No.
They used to, years, I mean, the constables in the past used
A
to
lot of
haul
them
it
are
out
school,
there.
I put it right here, because
Yeah.
they buzz up through here pretty good.
That slows people down, it's amazing what
Yeah,
that
it
little
does.
thing will do.
It does, you're
I think a
right.
lot of people just don't pay attention and
Yeah.
realize,
Yeah.
they don't realize that they're going as fast as they are, particularly if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Whatever it
Well,
is.
You have to
I don't
park
know.
cars to the speeding, and that makes it harder even.
Okay.
I mean, we're on camera tonight, and maybe, this is a point at which we really appeal to people. We are coming into a time of year where kids are out of school. They're going to be running around a lot, and it's a very congested area of town. And people really need to take precautions, I think, in how they park, where they park. And maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's an educational kind of thing that we start first before we start imposing more ordinances and fines and things like that. I mean, I'd like to believe that, when it's brought to their attention that we have some real concerns for safety for our children, especially, that folks maybe can police themselves and each other. I don't know.
Based on the conversation tonight that we've had so far, it appears, I'm going to suggest that we propose language to not allow parking, is it on the south side of Dunham Avenue? And that we actually codify our no parking along the east side, it's the east side, correct?
No, north side.
North side.
North side, I'm sorry, north side.
Of Buck
Yeah,
Hill.
north,
Right.
on the north
Yeah.
side. The
Yeah.
east and north side.
East side, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the north side of
Buck Hill.
Buck Hill Road. And at this point, I don't think we have strong support to actually put into law, so to speak, a change for Cleveland Avenue at this time, with the hope that with some education and some communication, maybe we can help to improve the situation there by trying to communicate with the folks. Does that sum up where we're at?
Yep, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Travel around there when you do, Kenny, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah,
It's not like they try to get off.
Okay, since last meeting, I've been trying to go that way as much as, whatever I think of it.
Well, how
Come
about-
back that way.
Yeah. So
They
how
just
about,
don't even try to get off the travel. lane. It's,
Well, my time must be wrong, because I haven't got one yet, but I've been looking for it.
All right, Margie?
Just a procedural observation that maybe for the next meeting, it would still be considered the first reading because we'll have our actual language.
Perfect, yeah,
And
that's
between
fine.
now and then, if we want to reconsider Cleveland Avenue, we can do it.
So be it, yeah, that's fine. That would be
Okay.
good. So are you comfortable with,
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 lines. We would amend section 6 to read, "No parking on the south side of Dunham Avenue from," and I'll put location to location, intersections.
Well, you gotta get halfway down that hill right there, from the White Creek
from
Road,
White Creek Road,
up beyond that second apartment building.
the 2 first buildings,
Yeah,
both sides of the road.
yeah.
I couldn't get through there one day with a plow truck, couldn't. But I mean, it's still, this time of the year even still, it's like it.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
And then the amendment regarding Buck Hill Road would be no parking on the north side of Buck Hill Road from blank to blank. And I have to go find out where the signs begin and end.
Just past the firehouse. Down here.
And the other thing that we should do is standardize our signs. So we're going to have to
yeah, we'll get,
look at them. Yeah.
okay. Any further discussion on this matter for this evening? Okay, thank you. So this will be on the agenda next one, and then we'll actually do a reading of these as we've
Right,
described.
for June 17th.
Okay, next item, town garage status. Karen?
Well, let's see. I was not at the last meeting. Terry, I believe, was. We thought we had canceled the meeting, but unfortunately, and I think I dropped the ball on that, we told the camera, but I didn't get the email off. I was a little crazed. And so we are meeting again this week, having a separate, sort of a special meeting, because we're going to have some folks come and present on different types of building materials. And we also will then, the following week, next week, be back to our regular schedule of second and fourth Wednesdays.
I have an issue. We cannot meet here because DRB meets, so
Oh,
we
this
need a
Wednesday.
meeting location for Wednesday night.
Okay.
If the
right.
weather is good, we could just open up the garage doors and perhaps just meet in the garage around your table? Or, I just don't know how many people we'll have. We'll have to make half circles and just,
We can clean up there,
or we would meet
there's only one truck in there
downstairs.
right now.
Or downstairs.
Or
yeah.
downstairs. All right, we can,
But
we'll go with
I think she would
that.
prefer, if
We'll
it's
go
going to
with
be, we get 10 to 15 people sometimes at this
Probably be
meeting.
better
That's too
downstairs
many.
because it's better lighting.
it. Yeah, we
Like a
can,
dungeon over
I think
there.
we can fit it
Don't last that long
downstairs.
anyway.
Okay,
Yep,
I
yep.
I don't know if we got a gentleman coming from the salt shed. He might have some pamphlets or some poster boards to show us
Right.
or whatever. And
Right.
I think we can manage.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll play it by ear when we all get here.
We're
and
from Vermont, huh?
That's right. So, in any case, the committee continues to work on, basically how can we cut the costs and still have a quality building. One of the big decisions really was to, at this point, put aside discussion of the pole barn. Because the critical pieces we feel are the garage itself and the salt shed. The pole barn is something that we believe over time, we can easily get local labor. It's something that perhaps can be included in a budget, to raise that money over the course of several years perhaps. And, if we have budget figures that come in a way that would make it very reasonable to consider it sooner rather than later, maybe that could happen. But right now, we're concentrating on
The
main garage building and the salt shed. And there is another piece that folks can look out for in the paper, in the banner, which gives some updated information. One thing that the committee has talked about coming to the select board, and we don't have a formal recommendation yet, but we have talked about a request to go forward and clear that lot sooner rather than later. If we can get it an amount suggested, if we can get it at a price, basically, that's well under any sort of bid requirement, and it really would be a way for us to bring contractors in there. It would make it a lot easier for people to kind of eyeball the site and get the lay of the land, so to speak.
Now, this all had to do, this was brought up back in November, December.
That's right. That's right.
And the board at that time decided no, that we
Well, we
were not going to do
decided-
anything prior to any award or any
That's
bond
right.
approval.
That's right. And I think the sense from the committee is that, and it being a very diverse committee, that there is a real need for a new garage, in whatever form that finally takes, that's to be determined, and that is the site that it would go on. So the feeling was if we could get it done at a very reasonable cost, it would put us a little bit ahead of the ballgame. We know that that's the site eventually, that it's going to go on. So in any case, I'm not suggesting that the board do anything tonight
Okay,
about that.
I have an issue with process.
Okay.
I know we have a potential logger in mind, but that's a significant amount of tree work to be done there, and it's not going to be going out to bid, so we don't really know. I mean, it's a dilemma. We have somebody that has said, I'm willing to do it for X, because they know what our bid ceiling is. If they come in under $3,000. Now, nobody else is going to have that opportunity.
Well, then that would be a decision for the board as
All right,
to
so I just need the board to
whether the
know that,
board,
Terry.
wants. Yeah, he's not.
I'm worried if you want to do that we could end up paying a lot more money. That's all I'm worried about.
Yeah, we have purchasing policies that state anything under $3,000 only needs approval at certain levels, but it never takes away the competitive aspect of what we're doing.
Okay.
It just draws a line at the formality of what we do.
Well, then do you, knowing that there's someone out there willing to do it for under a bid price, do you go out there and solicit from others via telephone or,
Well, that's what should be happening.
Yeah, that would be the other,
That
that'd
would
be the
be
other option.
to round it, to make sure we're observing our own policies and.
Yeah, that would be how you would, it's not getting around, but that would satisfy the requirement.
because, if it's, yeah. And I could see doing that. So anyway, that's informational.
So that'll be coming, you'll be coming with a
That'll be-
formal recommendation at some point in the near future to that end.
I think that's right. I think that's right. That was what I understood, actually something that was discussed at this meeting, that I was not at, but I was informed by another committee member that was something that they were talking about. So that's
That's it for the...
it.
Okay.
That's it.
Ken, anything additional to add? Okay. Thank you for that. We'll look forward to actually having the committee come and bring that and any other, as I'm sure you're beginning to starting to round things into shape a little bit and bring something to us in the next while. We look forward to that.
Will be soon. Yep.
Okay. Terry, you're next. Welcome to the parlor. Guess we'll start off with you. What do you,
The mic.
Bring the mic
close
so
to
we-
you.
you can hear me?
I can, but the camera people might not be able to.
I guess a couple things we're looking for is if you bring us up to speed on some of the projects that we had on the, capital projects, where they stand as far as, the
We
ones
don't
had on
start the capital projects till July.
No, the ones for this year. Where are they at? The ones we did for the year that's nearing an end, are they?
Cider Mill's the only one we're working on still, and that's, with all the rain and trouble we've had with ditches and stuff, we've pretty much done no general maintenance. We've been just cleaning up. Everybody has been doing something with getting the roads are in pretty decent shape for all the rain we've had, but still, we've had washes, ditches overflowing, and we're cleaning ditches every day, grading every day, and Ron was up Cider Mill all day today with a dozer by himself, and we only got a 4-foot bank left. That's all we got left. And
How much time do you think we have left in that project to get it complete? Do we have,
if we had
or do we? need
probably
it?
4 men, 4 whole days.
Okay.
But it doesn't work because we're just sending the guy up there for a few hours, and
Right.
we're just piecing it because it's still workable. It still works. So when I get a free guy, I send him up there.
And that would be, so we have to scrape, we have to divert traffic, make sure that that's acceptable, then we have to scrape, then we have to lower the guardrail.
Yeah.
Then we have to reestablish ditches, and do
We're
whatever.
gonna put a ditch up the whole west side when we're done.
Right, right. And then we just have to
Seed it.
seed, mulch, but also whatever we're gonna do with the berm.
Yep.
We're gonna,
Put a picnic table up on top.
It's quite a scenic spot, actually.
yes, it is.
Or will be once it's done.
Yeah, it's very close, but like I said, I was hoping to spend more time before July 1st up there and had that project completed. It just, I do have, you saw it, I got pictures from a ditch we just did with a brand-new culvert that overflowed yesterday. It rained so hard, the ditch could not handle the water, and there was nothing in the culvert to make it plug up. It just couldn't take the water. It come off Westview Road, and it just overflowed the road. The water department said they got 1.99 inches of rain in about 25 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
They've never had that higher reading.
All over, yeah.
Never had that higher reading.
That's crazy rainfall.
Yeah.
That Thursday doesn't sound good. They're saying it could be
Another
a
one?
perfect storm.
Really?
Thursday into Friday. All the air is gonna hit just right, and we could have significant amount of rain overnight.
Beautiful. Okay. What other projects did we have, for last year? The big projects?
Oh, we had, we did
Myers
White
Road.
Creek, we did Myers, we did
Eric,
Eric,
we fabriced 800 feet on Eric,
right.
600 feet on Myers, fabriced, gravelled.
Yep.
We added in, Cross Hill Road. We widened that, added all gravel there, ditched it.
Perrin, did you do something on Perrin Road? Or was
last year.
that had already been?
That was
not
the year
last-
prior.
the
Year before we
yeah.
finished fabric and all that.
That's right.
And that project, that
We
held up
started
well
Cider
this year,
Mill.
right?
Yeah, held up real
held
well.
up.
And we started Cider Mill.
We've already ditched all of the other side of Cross Hill this year because the water was going right down the middle of the road. I did a third of Buck Hill Road on the south side today. The water was running right down the middle of the road yesterday. Gotta get up on East Road, I guess, now.
Yeah, yeah.
They haven't had to grade a lot of complete roads after the first time, but they were both out today just spot grading because of the rain. And if it rains hard again Thursday, I don't want to get too crazy with
Right.
opening up too many roads again.
Right.
But we are running that excavator every day, and I've been just about the only one in, and I've been keeping my fingers crossed, but it's still
Hanging
still
together.
going.
Have we had any, and since we put that up for bid last week, have we had any?
I've had about 5 calls already. They want to come over and then we'd have to give them a bid form or our application to Margie typed up and
Okay.
The,
it's in Want Ad Digest, it's in Vermont Local Roads and the banner.
the first bid that's actually coming in is going to be on the truck body, plow and lighting, and that's going to be on your next agenda.
Okay. That's coming.
And then the
Well, that's
sale,
what we're buying, not for, that's
that's
not the
buying.
sale.
The sales will be, actually, that should be probably touched on very briefly here, because we've never had to do this before. I only sold my first piece of equipment with the fire warden. I took care of the transaction after he arranged it all and advertised and found the buyer. But these are purchases of much greater dollar value, or sales of a much greater dollar value.
Right, but we have a low minimum bid on it. So we
So
pretty much know where we're started at.
what we did do with the advertisements was make it very clear after consulting the treasurer about the type of payment we would accept. So we will be comfortable with the type of check that we get, and we've asked for all legal information, including tax ID number. And so we have the proposals all due on a date certain. I think it's the 24th of June. And so I guess what I'd like to do is follow that process through and have authorization for whomever to open and tabulate the proposals. Or would you like that all done at the subsequent select board meeting, which would be your July 4th meeting, in and around at that time?
What is the date of what's the closing date for the bids for the excavator?
Well, they're all due on the 24th.
What are we selling with the excavator and the pick? And
The F-550,
Right.
the 02.
Right.
Okay. So those are both due on the
Both due
20?
the 24th. And so there's one more week of June after that, but your next meeting, normal meeting schedule puts you right in, the 4th is a Thursday, so it's going to be
It is.
July 2nd,
It'd be the first.
First,
or 1st.
for Monday.
I don't have a problem with Margie opening it and, going through the tabulation or whatever and making a recommendation.
So that we can act on
Other
it.
than,
I mean-
having to
Be a lot
do it
quicker
Yeah, I'd
at the
like
board
to,
meeting
too.
and then do
Yeah.
Be a
that.
lot quicker for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Maybe we could do the same one of our Thursday meetings when there's 3 of us. On the body bids, we could open up, make sure there's apples for apples, and then,
Actually, bid openings as a whole, that for purchases is a little different thing because of the cost.
But I don't even know why we can't why do the bid openings always have to be at a select board meeting? Is there a reason for
well, I guess
that?
what I'm asking is if 3 of us did it, and then compared apples for apples, Margie could make a recommendation to save you
Yeah,
guys time.
Right, because the bids are
right.
due, and then you could award the bid on the
Exactly,
17th.
Exactly.
And we did this once before. You actually came and were on hand when the bids were opened, as a
Yes,
select board
yes,
member present.
yes, Yep,
Trying to make it quicker.
So if
for-
Craig were present, or somebody were present,
Yeah.
Ken or whomever,
yeah.
just as we open the bids, then I tabulate them, we stamp them, received, and then I make copies, and then Terry has to do the homework.
Yeah, I just think the whole process would be smoother and faster.
And you can be done with it in one meeting then. Instead of
Well,
saying,
you-
okay,
you-
now go
you-
compare them, then
you
bring them
couldn't
back.
quite be done, I mean, yes, the full select board would be done with
Right.
it, yes.
In one meeting.
Yes, yes.
So
Any
can-
concerns with that?
We'll arrange, make
Well,
plans with
okay.
you.
All right. All right, so basically, I guess back, just rounding out the first question I have, so the only outstanding capital improvement project that's not been completed is the Cider Mill one,
Yes.
and it's nearing completion.
Yes.
Weather permitting, it still might be complete, but it's going to be tight at this point.
Yes, right. We started mowing today, so I sort of lose the 6th guy for a while. And, it's okay.
You know, I have a concern, because the tractor broke right
Right.
off the bat
Oh, boy.
today.
It did?
Yeah, it did. because I was driving around, just looking, and I drove Daniels Road, and there, the signs were up, but there was no mower. And so
Oh, the safety guard.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
the
all it
safety
was,
guard,
that's all it was.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's just a spring on
so
it.
it just put him down for a little bit.
Yeah, there's no, he's all set, no money, just,
Good,
he had to bend it back, that's all.
good.
So that being that, now, there was earlier tonight, we did have a couple of people had concerns related to road-related matters. Actually, Ken, I'll let him just reiterate, he had the one that came to him from a resident at Twitchell Hill Road.
I talked to a gentleman on Twitchell Hill, 320,
No, this is a different address.
okay,
All right. Just
I think.
paraphrase the concern.
This is about halfway up the hill.
on the right?
On the right-hand side, where you clean
He
the
says he's
ditch there.
he
Yeah.
says he's 230.
230, whatever it was,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
230, whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just asked me if we were going to seed it and hay it, or if he was supposed to do that. Is that what he asked you, or?
No, this is a different.
About the erosion of where it had washed out in the storm since you graded it.
Yeah,
Cleaned it out. And also the entrance to his driveway. And I didn't talk to anybody else, but he said there was another neighbor up the hill that had the same concern. And below his driveway, you could see where there was blacktop. That had always been blacktop, as long as I ever see it.
well, before we blacktopped it, Ken, just so you know, the road at some points was about 23 feet wide.
Yeah.
And some it was 18 feet wide.
Yeah.
We had to take a common denominator to figure out what we were going to do there.
Yeah.
And it's between 16 and 20 feet is a normal road, so we took 18.
Yeah.
Tried to draw a straight line at 18, and we reclaimed it at 18 feet up through
Well, now what
there.
I'm getting at is that ditch, as you're going up the hill, the ditch on the right-hand side, for years and years and years, was blacktop ditch. And I went down to the house below his, and you can see there still is blacktop in that ditch.
Yeah.
There was gravel over it.
I didn't dig much blacktop out when I went up through
I
there.
don't think you did. It
When the
didn't-
blacktop was there, I tried to scrape it out.
It didn't look like you did, Terry, but I'm
Right.
just saying that I don't know how you're gonna maintain that if it's not blacktop.
I don't either if we don't put culverts in. But I don't know how we can make them put culverts in.
I thought
That's why I didn't go any
that was
deeper.
the town's problem to put culverts in there.
No. The residents have to pay for their culvert. We'll put it in.
Yeah,
Do you realize how deep that ditch will have to be up through there to do that? Jerry Brilliant put one in because he wanted one.
Yeah.
You see how deep that ditch is there? 3 feet deep.
I didn't go down by his house.
It
Yeah,
works.
I
It's
think
doing
we
it.
need to look at the whole road and maybe walk it and do some measuring. Because what I'd really like to do is to see the limit of our right-of-way on that
Oh,
side.
we're way inside that. I measured it, but
Oh, okay, all right,
I did
just
measure it,
visually,
but-
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind planting grass seed and haying it,
I don't-
or even hiring you to do this hydro seeding, which is great. But if we're gonna keep getting these rains, there's no sense in doing it right now.
I think you've gotta pay it. I don't think you can do anything, I don't think you can do anything different.
What about the driveways, though? If we
You're gonna
pave it and we ever have to dig it
you're
up,
gonna
we're in
have to make
trouble.
them fit. You're gonna have to make them wide and deep, shallow.
Ooh, they're not gonna like that. We've already been through that.
Well,
Yeah,
I think Margie's point's a good one, is I think that this probably is kind of more of a project, more
It's
of some length.
It's a hill length.
But
And
with the
then-
rains we're getting recently, if the old blacktop was there or this new blacktop, they'd still be having problems.
oh, I'm not,
I'm just about to make that point. It's
Yeah, it's a
not,
hill.
it's not
It's a
anything to
hill.
do with this
It's
new
a-
blacktop. It's
right,
no, I'm
It's
not
the
saying
rain we're
that.
getting all of a
That's
sudden.
a steep hill
yep.
and when you get that kind of water going in there, I don't know
Yeah.
how you're gonna maintain that if you don't pave that
And
down.
we cleaned the DI out halfway down, we cleaned the bottom DI out. We've done everything we can do to try to help the water, but
But we still need to figure out how we're going to preserve the ditches.
Yeah.
That freshly dug, I know
We
we're
can't-
we
starting
can't do
to a
those.
we can put
road.
grass. What's that?
Right now, we can't really solve the issue like today or tomorrow or the
Right.
next week or even the next few weeks because of, rain and stuff. But what I think what we're talking about is actually looking bigger picture, like how do we maybe try to solve the problem, I won't say permanently because nothing's permanent, but, do we look at a project that, maybe that it's a big project where
Right,
we're.
this
where
could
we
be a
put-
capital improvement.
It might be a capital
you know.
improvement where we end up putting a ditch in culverts and possibly paving ditch, or whatever it might be, but I think
I
looking
think
at
Ken's
it on
right,
a
the
big...
paving ditches, the way, you know how I feel about the stone. I mean, 2-3 years, you're gonna dig it up anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You spend $9 a ton on that big stone, put it in there, and it fills all in with the silt on that hill as
Yeah.
fast as that water comes down.
Yeah.
Paving would be the answer because it'll self-clean itself.
I don't know how you're gonna do it any other way.
The only problem, and we won't, this is my last comment, is that paving does nothing to slow the velocity of the water. You're just encouraging sheet flow like the dickens all the way down the hill.
Well, no, actually, Margie, you
So
got,
then you'd have to
you got Babsy
upsize
Lane.
your culverts.
That's a out.
Yeah.
It stops there. Then it
Yes.
picks up again from Babsy Lane
Right.
down to Jerry
All the way
Brilliance,
down.
and then there's another out.
And there's another.
And then it goes from there down to the DI at the bottom.
We have 3
Yeah, so
diversion points.
it's not a complete hill that it's gonna run, it's 3 sections.
Okay,
But it's still gonna go fast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
All right, so let's put that as a project to begin, let's review that and start looking at ideas for that. All right?
And as soon as we get possibility of a weak weather, I'll put some seed down and some hay up there and,
And hopefully get some seed and
Yeah.
slow it down in the short term. Right.
Get some of that overnight stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that grows like this overnight. And roots.
Yeah.
The other one was Barry Meyer was in, and you, I'm sure you're already aware on Town Line, where, again, the deluge the other week, he said it looked like a portion of the road was in his front yard.
I told him we're gonna send him a bill for the gravel.
That's not helpful.
But anyways, and he just was...
If he'd like it scraped out, I can go up and scrape it off, but it's rocks that big, we can't reuse it. I mean, it's not good gravel, it's stuff that come out of the field and everything by the logs.
And that's, and basically...
Is that what we really should be doing? If we do it for one, we have to do
Yeah,
it for
I don't-
others?
I don't know, I'm saying, is that something you guys want, or?
I do not think because I could ask you to come to my house and scrape the anybody that
That
lives
wouldn't
on a
look good
hill.
though, Karen.
Huh? Anybody that lives on a hill, and especially if it's a dirt road, it
You're gonna have
comes with the territory.
Okay.
And I don't think we can start setting a precedent with the town going and clearing off people's
No, I think his
people's grass.
question was more, is there a way, and just that it's happened, kind of twice in 2 weeks, which again, we've had some tremendous rainfall. And in short terms, as we just heard, he was just posing, it's like, well, it's inconvenient for him, but is there a way to stop it or slow it down? I guess that's,
Big umbrella would help.
yeah.
I told him when I get in the good graces of you guys again, I was gonna see if I could cut that road trees down up there and put a ditch in. I've spoke to Dan Perna that owns the property, and he didn't seem to have an issue with any of the trees going, but we've got enough work to do right now that we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so anyways, those were just 2 things that came up earlier in the evening tonight, so. And next week, the other thing that we talked about, and I think Margie's gonna handle this primarily, is just we wanna tabulate the total cost of the loader, what the loader's, where we're at on it, so. But that really doesn't affect you other than if Margie needs your assistance to tie stuff down, so.
Okay.
Any other questions for Terry tonight? Thank you. We're good.
Thanks a lot.
Happy. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too, Terry.
All right, next item on the agenda is a water board meeting. Do we need to proceed with that, or, the last I'd heard that was a maybe, maybe not? Do we need to proceed with that?
There will be no action taken by the board, it's more informational, so I could actually just give the information right now.
As
If
opposed
rather
to-
than adjourning and convening,
Okay.
and, I mean, if that, Margie, does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah.
The board might remember that you had approved our initiating a process for shut-off on a property for non-payment over the course of a couple of years. The water superintendent we did go through that, start the process. The user did come to the superintendent and request to set up a payment plan. It did bring up a separate question, and it's something that the state has been getting a lot of feedback from municipalities around, and this has to do with a municipality actually working with a tenant for the payment of water bills that an owner doesn't take responsibility for. And in fact, I know the legislature, there was some language, whether it passed or not in this session, I'm not sure, but it was introduced that would allow municipalities specifically to negotiate with tenants. And we may be looking at bringing some language, amending our own policy to allow that kind of thing. But essentially, right now, we have a situation where our superintendent does have the discretion to set up payment plans, and he has come up with a plan that he's satisfied with. It is a property that went to tax sale last September, so that tax sale will, unless something happens in the meantime between the tenant and the owner, it's a little complicated, but it will, because when it goes to tax sale, there's a year's period of time during which the owner can pay the due taxes and anything else that is held as a lien against the property to release it from that. And if that doesn't happen, then the person who has made the initial purchase, so to speak, is then obligated to pay any liens in order to get clear title. So essentially, if the water bill isn't paid off in full by September, the anticipation or the expectation is that by September tax, again, the culmination of the year's waiting period, at that point it would be paid off in any case, so.
So basically, that sounds like...
So that's, we really wanted to update the board because, again, we don't take water shut-off notices lightly. We hope never to have to do it. We hope we don't have to do it in this case. I mean, it may come back to us if the payment plan doesn't proceed according to the agreement. But we do have the order out there if we need to, so. Okay?
Thank you.
And I also would like to ask the board we're looking at the second meeting in July for a water board meeting, in June, July for a water board meeting. Okay?
7:15.
Thank you.
So July 15th.
July 15th.
Yep.
So if we could set that like an hour prior to our regular meeting, that would be, I think, great.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, will it be an hour, do you think, roughly, to do it? Or just confirm as you tie it down.
Yeah, as we get closer to, I think probably an hour would probably be enough.
Would be sufficient,
We'd want to
okay.
go over the end of the year.
Right.
The budget would be in a new fiscal year at that point.
Okay.
We'll want to be updating in terms of our search for water superintendent,
Right.
which has been going slowly in terms of the numbers of
Qualified.
applications that are not coming in, so.
Okay. All right. Anything else related to the water board issue?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Margie, Town Administrator's report.
I've been very busy with a lot of personnel-related matters. We're doing the annual evaluations of the crew and the foreman, and at some point, you'll need to evaluate me, I guess, by the end of June. And let's see, we are trying to square away our accounting and payroll division of labor so that when I report for jury duty on Tuesday morning, that payroll can continue and our retirement payments get to the state, et cetera, and I'm still working on certain landfill-related issues. We're sampling for methane and some of the equipment broke, so we're having Bill Pennebaker stepped forward to help basically replace a battery in one of the pieces of equipment, but I can't get into it. I don't have the tools. And we had an annual inspection of the cap, so I met an engineer up there, and I will share this with you. It's part of our certification responsibilities to inspect that, and we're finding that we do, on all sides, have evidence of varmints, of gophers,
Groundhogs.
groundhogs, whoever it is that's tunneling through that layer. So we do have a rodent removal issue. And then we found a very small leachate seep near the toe of the landfill on the north slope, which was not observed last year. So that's now on the list of aspects to be dealt with. But the methane gas monitoring is going along very nicely and no evidence. We had a couple of electrical issues. I've never, ever seen the pump itself fail, but at the vent, there's always methane coming out of the vent at the peak of the cap of that landfill. And the amount of methane being produced is going down very slowly over time. But it's imperative that we have electricity, but electricity was tripped twice in the last 4 months. So the first time I did not know what to do. The pump was off, and so all I could think of was that we're going to explode because methane is building up inside that landfill. So I had to put a panic call in to Bill Pennybaker, and he assured me it takes about a month to build up to the point where it would evidence itself in the test wells. So obviously we got the electricity back on, and we don't know why it went off again, but I think we've corrected that issue.
Is there a breaker going or something?
There's a breaker, and it's been replaced the
It's
second
like
time.
in the unit, or is it actually off the line?
It's off,
Or in
no, it's
in the-
not,
in the
it's not
service?
at the vent. It's at, just between one of the landfill sampling wells, there's a box, what would you call it, junction
Junction
box?
box.
Junction box. We had to replace.
Didn't get hit by lightning, did it?
You know, that's a good question, but I think we would have seen it melt or not be
Didn't
there.
necessarily, it'd get hit over here and it come back.
Well, that's true.
Right. It
That's
could
very
run through
true.
the ground, or, yeah.
That could be. We've had a little of that the last
Yeah, a
while.
little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
Is that
So
thing grounded? It should be grounded, I would think.
I think it is.
Wouldn't hurt, check it.
Yeah. That would be something to have people check.
So that's where I am right now.
That's
Still,
it?
yeah, that's it.
Okay. Make sure to let me know as far as if anything needs to be signed,
Oh, yeah.
off weeks and stuff,
Yep,
as
yep.
usual. All right. Thank you, Margie. Other business? Anything else to bring to the table tonight, Ken?
No.
Mitch?
I'm just reaching out to the liaison people as I get the chance and say
Oh,
hi.
good,
I'm
yeah.
gonna try to make it to one of these meetings, and I'll throw out the whole thing, that's all.
Thank you. Karen?
Just a couple things. Joe and I had met, I don't know if Margie was there, about 10 days ago maybe, with the school board, because you remember we had an issue of a water loss at the school, and the board approved sending the bill, and they had some questions just around the whole water system process, and so anyway, I think they were satisfied. Maybe we've already received the check. We should be receiving the check soon if we haven't gotten it yet. And also today, I went to one of the mandatory sessions for a bike and pedestrian grant. As we look at the corner here, the completion of the sidewalk project, there have been a number of things that have taken the cost over what the initial projections were when we first put the grant together back in 2010 or whenever that was. So it is another way of getting, they have encouraged us to go for a supplemental grant to the same project. We can add in some things like additional lighting. The initial grant only called for one light post, and we're trying to keep the cost within budget, but this actually is a way of putting in some of the pedestrian enhancements that we've been talking about for the four corners there. So, anyway, that application will be due July 26th. So, you know, it seems like a good pot of money, and they actually, their match is only 10%, whereas the Transportation Alternatives Program, which we could also apply to, theirs deadline comes up a little bit later. But it's nice to only have a 10% match, so. Anyway, more to come on that, and we'll need a letter of support from the board as we get closer. I mean, it's not a lot of time to put this together, but, I think we'll be able to do it. So, just wanted to let the board know about that.
Okay, thank you. Margie?
No other business for me.
Okay. I have one matter, and I don't know if any of you caught my email late in the day today. One of my tasks from our last meeting was we'd had some discussion regarding the conflict of interest policy. Some members of the DRB had concerns as whether it was too restrictive or not, or wouldn't allow them to continue with service potentially as they were interpreting it. We discussed at the last meeting that we felt that the way that it was worded was sufficient and accurate, and I was to follow up with them and confirm that. As I was working through I read through the documents again and was crafting that response, and something struck me, and I just wanted, and this is only a clarification to make sure that I offer the response, the board's response, and not just my own interpretation of it. As I'm reading that document, it would require a member of a board, I'm going to use an example because I think it's easier to explain it. As I read it, if a member of the board had worked with someone coming before the board for a matter and they had been involved with it, they would obviously need to recuse themselves related to that matter, and during and after that, any discussion regarding that. That's pretty easy to understand. The question would be, is the protocol if they wanted to represent a person to the board on which they served.
Wait, so represent a person?
Someone comes before the board with a matter that the board is going to hear, and a sitting member of the board actually would recuse themselves and go to the other side of the table to present for their client to the board.
Right.
Which happens a lot.
What?
Which happens a lot.
Happens a lot.
Yes.
The way that as I'm interpreting the new policy, if that were to happen, each time that happened, if a sitting member wanted to represent a member of the public to the board, they would first have to come to the select board to get the select board's approval that, I'm using I have to use the wording, I want to use the exact wording that, where's it at here? Hold on, I just have to pull it up.
For good cause.
Approved by the select board for good cause. That, I just wanted to make sure I had the wording correctly.
But
So,
you're sure
But
it
it
is
doesn't
each
say
time?
each time.
as I'm interpreting the way that is read,
Could you read it?
actually, if I go to the website, I can pull it.
I have it right here,
You have it up right there? Read it,
bring
it's
mine
the
up.
section
5C.
5C.
Unless approved by the select board for good cause, a public officer shall not personally or through any member of his or her household, business associate, employer, or employee, represent, appear for, or negotiate in a private capacity on behalf of any person or organization in any cause, proceeding, application, or other matter pending before the public body in which the officer holds office or is employed.
Right, so, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is I went back and reread this.
Yeah, that's, okay.
That wording would lead me to believe that if a member of the DRB wanted to represent, in their business, wanted to represent a project they were working on with the member of the community to the board, it would require that they, for each time that happened. Now, I mean, it wouldn't, not for each meeting on the same topic, but if a member of the public brought up a matter that that person was working on them with, before they started that, they would have to get our approval first. And then they would be good throughout that proceeding related to that, whether it's 1 meeting or 10 meetings to get through it. But if the next meeting they had another client, same issue, they would have to
They're
come.
back again.
They would have to come back again. That's the way I interpret this wording. Something that stuck in my head was a comment that I'm going to attribute to Karen, but I'm not certain that it was a thought that maybe by our approving them to the board to begin with, for example, we appointed person X knowing that they are in a job that this may become something that happens with some frequency, that by us putting them on the board, that we've automatically given them that approval, assuming that they need to step away and can come to the board. I'm not reading it that way. Some feedback that I did get from Carl, just as his 2 cents towards this, and information that's readily available. His thought is the same as mine, is that by literal interpretation, they would have to come to us each time to get approval. I just want to clarify if the rest of the board thinks the same way, or if they think in alternate fashion.
No,
Because I just want to make clear that I communicate in the way that the board as a whole believes.
Right. What I was envisioning was that when yes, it would most likely happen during the appointment process. And it would be at an open session. And, because we have talked about our appointment policy, and that those, that we would have interviews, and I think the important thing for me is that those questions be asked up front, and it be very visible to the public that if an individual anticipates having conflicts of interest, that those potential conflicts of interest are raised before the select board, and most likely they're going to be because it's a part of their business. And that was the way I was envisioning it, not every single time somebody has a conflict that's business related, they have to get the approval from the select board.
Okay. Thank you. Mitch, your thoughts?
Well, I saw the email from Carl. Initially, I
It
thought
was
like,
late this afternoon. You may, if you weren't back, you did not see it.
yeah, it was, you couldn't have sent it
Okay.
out a couple days ago.
No,
Yeah.
that would have been too easy.
And I understand his point, and I understand Karen's point, and I did lean in the Karen's, basically that if the select board appointed him, then that basically is good cause. But the arbitrary, what is good cause? Do we have a definition of good cause?
Yeah,
That's
I
a
mean,
matter
that's very arbitrary, and to me,
right.
it's hard to nail down. And I mean, maybe, as I said last meeting or something, I said, unless approved by the select board, take out for good cause. But I mean, we adopted it as it was.
Basically, the bottom line is, and I can give you, we did discuss that a little bit. The bottom line is that if a board of 5 people felt that it was, if this is his living and
Right.
and he recuses himself and everybody's clear about that, we felt that, 5 people could decide. Arbitrarily, I might not like it, but if 5 of us come to a decision, a majority decision, then it's a good cause.
Okay.
Right, and I think, if you've got somebody that is in business for themselves and there just isn't the ability for someone else to make that presentation before the board, I would see that as good cause. So I think there is some discretion,
Yeah,
obviously. to
Yeah,
the
we live in a
select
small
board.
town, and that's one of the things, the
Right.
inherent nature of small-town politics in small communities is that, we don't have 100,000 people here of which to pick a 5-member board or something that maybe they would never have an issue with that. Some of the people who may be best trained or best understand a topic, maybe, there's some benefit to them being on the board, but, by the same token, they have to make a living, so.
I mean, it would, if you had to do it for each time they were gonna do that, it would slow the process down for the client, basically, unless they came and were able to come into the Monday Select Board saying, I'm gonna represent Wednesday, and then we say yes, but,
If we said no,
if that's not on the
Right.
agenda, I mean,
Right.
it depends on when the DRB agenda and
Yeah, it
the
would be a real
Select Board
mess.
agenda gets put out there, so.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, I guess, so which way do you fall? Would you say that the appointment is the, if you were,
But what about people that aren't, even if so, what about the people that are already on the board
that
now? Well, maybe we should tweak it again. Have Carl suggest something, or?
My thing would be, and probably this would apply more to me than anybody else. because
on this board?
Well, you know, because of what I do, my business. It possibly could. But to me, it's more important to make sure that everybody in this town understands that there is no conflict of interest. So if I gotta go through one more little recuse myself or whatever, I'll do it. That's just the way I feel about it.
So you would, in this case, you could see yourself is that if, well, we are the select board, so it's a little bit of a different example, but, you know, if one of the other boards, if someone had a situation like this arise where they were going to represent someone to their board, you would concur that the current policy would require them to get our permission first to do that?
Because I just think it's more important that the people feel that they're
There's
being
no question.
represented, and there's no question, no funny business, because with everything that's going on down in Washington DC and everything else, and the way people feel about that, and I'm not saying Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever. You know, they got about a 5% approval rating down there, and I don't wanna go there.
So it would be better to, in my mind, I think one of the benefits of this is it would remove all doubt. So
But
there
that's-
wouldn't be
that's-
anybody
that's
thinking there's
exactly my
favoritism,
point.
so.
That's
But
exactly my point.
but I'm confused. Are you suggesting that every single time
Yes,
then?
yes.
If you're going to represent directly to your board, you would have to get the select board's approval first in an open meeting.
See, I mean, I will, there's no question that that would knock two of our current board members off the Development Review Board. And I guess
Or
for
it
me,
could.
the thing.
Whether or not they do,
Right.
that's their choice, but
Well, I mean, that's not my intent. My intent is to make sure that the public is confident that there's no funny business going on.
Right, but would it be enough to have that take place? I mean, even if it's on an annual basis, even if, you know, I mean, that's another thing we could do. If there's a statement on an annual basis before the select board, that we have to take that up, that, you know, an individual, you know, says that this is my business, for instance, and, you know, it really is not reasonable to expect that anyone else could represent my clients as what, I mean, I'm just throwing this out there as well as I can, and that essentially the select board, that's the opportunity for questions to be asked. It's transparent, it's on camera, and so people know that this individual or individuals have laid out their potential conflict of interest, and the board has had an opportunity to, you know, to sort of
Acknowledge it.
vet all of that information and question it, and so does the public, if it's an open session. I just worry that if we're requiring it before every potential meeting, it could gum up a lot of works in this town.
I just feel that the public's confidence is more important than slowing things down a little bit, maybe.
Well,
there we go.
we
So
need a
you guys
vote?
have helped me a
I
lot.
mean, I don't know how much that's helping.
I mean, we
That
just,
certainly wasn't my intent when I voted for that language. My intent was to have a transparent process, to bring it out, any conflict of interest, to bring it out publicly and, let people have an opportunity to question and whatever, and then the board make that determination as to whether or not, the benefit was acceptable versus, any conflict of interest.
So,
So I
just a matter of clarification, and Ken's, say I was doing something for the Historical Society, and I have to go in front of the DRB, recuse myself, go around the board. You think I should be coming here first? Say I'm gonna have to...
go before the development.
Yeah, I'm gonna change hats. I'm gonna push my
Some
agenda.
people might think it's a conflict. Jay
I
does.
spent time on the board and also observed it probably for about the last 2 years.
Mhm.
And I can honestly say that you'll probably have somebody looking for permission every week or every 2 weeks. Because generally,
Right.
there's somebody that has to recuse himself from the board
Right.
because of their business.
Yeah. I think it could,
It's the rule, it's more normal than it is abnormal to have the full board because of that.
right. And frankly, I do think we would lose members. I think it would be very inefficient. It would mean that just about every select board agenda,
You'd have to have
we
that.
would have to have a section for, somebody to come and present. And again, I think that for me,
That's what's going to be the criteria, they're going to have to justify.
that's right. I
That's a
agree.
good cause, yeah.
Yeah. I just think that for me, it's important to lay out a conflict of interest for the transparency and for people to determine, is it such a severe conflict of interest that the interests of the town are somehow being
hindered.
threatened
Yeah.
or yeah, so.
Okay, I think that, from a practicality standpoint, my initial thought when we developed it was very similar to Karen's, is that it was more that it be a very clear and very open thing. I did not, and ever in my wildest dreams, really interpret it in the fashion that, like we're saying, that I believe, as I read it, literal interpretation would require them to come every time and end up with gridlock that we were just discussing. I think that I don't believe that that's the intent, and I don't think it's the right thing to do that. I mean, ultimately, as much as I think that if a strict little interpretation would say that, I agree with you, Ken, and for many of the same reasons, I don't want to ever be in a position, or I don't believe that any of our board members want to be in a position to be looked upon, or that think that people has any funny business going on, but I don't think it's efficient for town's business to interpret it or require it in that fashion. I don't think, quite frankly, I don't want to spend an extra 20 minutes every meeting probably having a discussion whether or not a member of the DRB, for example, can next week come in and present his case to his board. I just don't think it's the right thing to do from a practical standpoint. I just don't think it makes sense.
I'm sorry, I disagree with you.
And I fully understand what you're
I
saying.
hear it all the time. I hear people telling me all the time that there's something funny going on. No, there ain't nothing funny going on, but, and I think a lot of it goes right down to Washington DC.
Well, yeah, and so if it goes down to Washington DC, there's not a whole heck of a lot that we're gonna be able to do up here in Shaftesbury. Shaftesbury
I
to
understand
change
that,
some of
Karen,
those
but
attitudes.
To me, it's more important that people are sure that there's nothing going on anyway.
Should part of the whole appointment process be spelt out that if you if you have any idea that you may have a conflict of interest or be on the other side represented, you need to spell it out to the select board
At the
in
time of
all
appointment.
capacity, and that should be part of the appointment policy.
Yeah. I think that's, again, as you're working and developing that, Rich, I think that's language that we should very, very clearly specify. And I quite frankly, I think that Dave and Chris brought up the point. It is a very good point. I think that they raised a really good point. It's made us think through it again, so.
But I think that maybe we need to clarify
Oh,
our conflict of interest policy.
yeah. Well, I think that we may need to revisit it again, yeah, and touch it up. But in the interim, I think I know the way I'm going to answer the question. I guess
Oh,
what-
of presenting to the DRB.
Yeah, I'm responding to the question that I said I would, so.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your input, everybody. I really do appreciate it. Because, as you can see, there was more to more to that than we wanted to think about maybe, or more of it than we maybe had thought about. So that's all that I have tonight. Any other questions, anything else? If not, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.